A nerdy son, neglected by his wealthy parents throughout his life, was denied even the most basic necessities. Now his successful tech business has them accusing him of fraud and begging for his forgiveness. Hi everyone, I'm using a throwaway account because I don't want to clutter my main one. So I, 27 meters, launched my own business a year ago with the help of a couple of my college friends. We've been doing really well financially and are currently making a profit. A few days ago, my estranged parents, both 54, who hadn't spoken to me since I graduated, finally reached out. They asked if they could join as partners in my business because they wanted to invest in it. But I declined their offer. I didn't consult my friends because they were well aware of my strained relationship with my parents, and I wanted to keep them out of my business affairs. My parents had always neglected and belittled me while I was growing up, despite being the kind of child most parents would be proud of. Both of them were quite wealthy. My dad was a dental surgeon, and my mom was a CFO at a company. Despite growing up in a successful household, I was always ambitious from a young age. However, my parents were never supportive and often made fun of my nerdy tendencies. Despite their wealth, they barely provided for my basic needs, seemingly out of spite. It wasn't until later that I realized they resented me for not achieving the level of success they had hoped for. While they were successful in their own right, they never reached the level of fame they desired. I only learned the truth behind their animosity towards me when I confided in my aunt, my dad's younger sister, who was the only one who understood me when I was 16. She revealed the reasons behind their unreasonable behavior and hatred towards me, believing I was old enough to know. They held me responsible because they felt they had to invest time and money into raising me, believing that if they had dedicated the same resources to their careers instead of me, they would have achieved greater success. They only had me due to family pressure and didn't even desire a child. However, once stuck with me, they chose to deal with me by bullying and constantly making me feel inadequate. I'd say I missed out on a lot during my childhood because although they provided for everything financially, they offered no support. Whether it was small things like homework or bigger issues like schoolyard fights, they offered no assistance. If I ever asked for anything beyond absolute necessities, they would either dismiss me or, worse, ridicule me. They'd mock my appearance, especially because I was thin and had a nerdy look. If not that, they'd tease me about my love for computers, insisting I'd only amount to an IT guy and nothing more, deeming any investment in me a waste of money. I experienced severe emotional neglect, and these insults were what I grew accustomed to hearing while growing up. At the time, I didn't realize it was wrong. Instead, I believed there was something inherently flawed about me, causing my parents to not love me like other parents love their children. It was messed up, but it felt normal to me. During my teenage years, I started pushing back a bit, but my dad quickly shut it down and threatened to kick me out if I didn't comply. So I turned to confiding in my aunt, who repeatedly offered to intervene, but I was too afraid of the potential consequences. I knew my aunt couldn't take me in, and I didn't want to burden anyone else, so I endured the hardships at my parents' house. Whenever things got tough, I sought solace in talking to my aunt. However, once I learned the truth behind my parents' behavior, I decided to cut ties with them after college since they didn't want me. They had sent me to public school, which, forgive me for sounding conceited, I believed was a waste of my potential anyway. That should have been a clear sign that they didn't care about my education or me in general, but I still held on to some expectations from them. However, those expectations shattered when they informed me that once high school ended and I turned 18, I wouldn't have a place in their home unless I made something of myself. Furthermore, they declared they wouldn't pay for my college tuition either. I couldn't take it anymore and confronted them, insisting they couldn't do this to me because I knew I had a promising future. Being a straight student all my life, I believed I was on the path to success. But they remained firm, dismissing my potential and saying I shouldn't have such high expectations. They even went as far as to belittle me, suggesting that the highest position I could aspire to would be a lowly IT guy fixing computers for beginners in corporate offices, despite what my teachers and friends had led me to believe about my abilities. To be honest, it was a pretty absurd statement because even those supposedly lowly aid professionals are highly skilled and deserving of respect in their own right. Unfortunately, my ignorant and narrow-minded parents couldn't grasp that concept. I tried to reason with them, hoping to convince them to cover my tuition costs. I figured I could worry about accommodation later. However, they remained stubborn, so a few weeks before my 18th birthday, I left home and sought refuge at my aunt's house. While my aunt continued to advocate on my behalf with my parents, her efforts proved futile. Eventually, we decided that I would attend whichever college offered the highest percentage of tuition coverage through scholarships. Fortunately, I was accepted into a college with an 80% scholarship, and it boasted a respectable computer science program, which satisfied me. My aunt, who worked in sales and didn't earn as much as my parents, generously agreed to cover the remaining expenses. Despite her middle-class status, her support was invaluable, especially considering my reduced tuition fees as a scholarship recipient. I only returned home if it was absolutely necessary. Otherwise, I preferred to stay in my dorm, especially since my aunt often traveled for work. That was my plan for navigating college, and my life improved significantly once I left my parents' house. Without the constant worry and anxiety, I felt much happier and found it easier to make friends. It was through these friendships that I met my current friends and business partners. Together, we decided to establish our own egg firm, and things have been going relatively well since then. I didn't think my parents would take any interest in my life, considering they had shown little interest during my school years. However, when they learned that I was graduating college as valedictorian, they decided to attend the ceremony. Unfortunately, they couldn't enter because I hadn't purchased tickets for them, nor had I invited them, as we were not on speaking terms. After the ceremony ended, I was taken aback to find my parents standing with my aunt, who seemed just as irritated as I was, likely having dealt with them after the graduation. Although I had plans to go out drinking with my friends, I ended up spending the next 2 hours in my parents' hotel room, engaged in heated arguments and disputes. They were upset about not being invited to the graduation, whereas my aunt had been, and they demanded an explanation. It struck me as ironic because, well, they hadn't let me live with them, kicked me out at 18, refused to pay for my tuition despite being able to afford it, and subjected me to emotional mistreatment throughout my childhood and into adulthood. Frankly, I didn't feel they deserved an explanation, but I didn't want them causing a scene outside my college campus. So I reluctantly accompanied them to the hotel. However, before losing my temper completely, I made it clear that I never wanted to see them again and warned them that if they tried to contact me, I would take legal action to keep them away. With that, I left the hotel to meet my friends. I made it clear to my friends that I wouldn't let my parents ruin what should have been a joyous day for me. After that confrontation, I cut off communication with them completely. Later, my aunt informed me that they were disappointed and angry. They even discussed the idea of disinheriting me, but I wasn't fazed because I never expected to receive anything from them anyway. That was the end of our interaction, and it's been almost 7 years since we last spoke. Then, out of the blue, a couple of days ago, they called me. They had asked my aunt for my phone number, and she gave it to them, thinking they wanted to apologize. However, they didn't apologize for anything and instead went straight to proposing a business venture. They saw investing in me as profitable now compared to years ago. Naturally, I declined their offer, hung up, and blocked them. I shared the incident with my friends, but they understood why I declined without consulting them first, given my history with my parents. However, the very next day, my parents retaliated by posting a scathing message on Facebook, tagging me and all my friends. They claimed that I wasn't the self-made success I portrayed myself to be, but merely someone who relied on daddy's money to create a moderately successful business. They accused me of refusing to acknowledge the help they supposedly provided over the years. I was stunned by the Facebook post and was tempted to call them immediately to confront them. But before reacting, I decided to retaliate with something I had kept to myself for years. During my teenage years, when I still lived with them, I have recorded several videos documenting my daily life with my parents. I did this just in case I ever needed evidence to prove in court or elsewhere that they were terrible parents. However, I never shared these videos because I wanted nothing to do with them. I feared that if I posted these videos showing their rude behavior, mocking me, and treating me poorly, there would be consequences. At the time, I didn't want any drama, so I let it go. However, their Facebook post changed everything. Feeling compelled to respond, I finally decided to share those videos. Perhaps I was in the wrong here. Using my public profile on Instagram, I wrote a lengthy caption explaining my history with my parents and uploaded the videos to call them out. Once that was done, I contacted my lawyer to update her on the situation. However, she was already one step ahead and began the paperwork to file a defamation lawsuit against my parents for their actions. She also planned to contact my business partners to gauge their willingness to join the lawsuit since their names had been dragged into the Facebook post as well. Several comments had already appeared on their post from some of my relatives and friends of my parents, applauding the exposure and vowing never to work with us again, providing us with solid grounds for legal action. I forwarded those screenshots to my attorney for future reference and informed my business partners so they could stay informed. After completing these steps, I waited for my parents to reach out, expecting them to beg for forgiveness. A few days later, they did call me, but not to apologize. Instead, they demanded an apology from me, claiming I had made a mistake by posting those videos. They argued that while they had posted their rant about me on their personal Facebook accounts, limiting the audience, I had shared it on my public profile, potentially reaching a larger audience due to my significant number of followers. They insisted I take down the post immediately because people were already sending them hateful messages, and some were even threatening them. They warned that this could ruin their careers, as the videos portrayed them poorly, and if their employers saw the posts, they would face serious consequences. Feeling defensive, I asserted that they deserved what was happening and promptly ended the call. However, I archived their posts and switched off my phone for a while. When I eventually checked my email after a couple of hours, I found a message from my parents. They expressed regret for past events but condemned my retaliation, highlighting that sharing personal videos without their consent could lead to legal repercussions for me. They hinted at being served with a defamation suit and demanded I retract my actions, warning of the potential consequences if I didn't comply. I discussed the situation with my business partners, who unanimously agreed that we should proceed with the lawsuit. They believed we had acted ethically and refused to back down, unlike those who had resorted to lies and distortion to discredit me. Despite their support, I couldn't shake the guilt, especially after receiving an apology via email. I knew the lawsuit would bring negative consequences for all involved, adding to my uncertainty. I'm torn about what to do next. Despite their apology, am I wrong to pursue legal action against my parents for defamation? Update 1. Hi everyone, I've made the decision to move forward with the lawsuit, and there are a few reasons behind it. Firstly, this wasn't a decision made solely by me. My friends are also involved. Although their posts didn't garner as much attention as mine did initially, it still had the potential to harm my business. Their intention was to tarnish my reputation and that of my firm, so I believe pursuing defamation is justified. Moreover, their apology doesn't hold much weight, as it seemed more about protecting their own careers rather than genuine remorse. Reflecting on my past, I realize I've often avoided confronting my parents due to fear, even into my late 20s. It took comments from some of you to make me realize just how many opportunities I've had to speak out, but didn't due to that fear. However, I now understand that I hold the power, and they can't intimidate me anymore. Despite their apology, which felt insincere, I'm determined to proceed with the lawsuit. I've been accommodating for too long, especially to people who don't deserve it. The treatment I endured from my parents was cruel, and no child should experience that. Now that I have the chance to seek justice, I won't hesitate to take it. I've taken the high road for too long, but there's no reason to continue when they persist in targeting me just to satisfy their ego. It's unacceptable, and I refuse to tolerate it any longer. Update 2. Today, my aunt reached out to inquire about my decision regarding the situation with my parents. I informed her that we were proceeding with the lawsuit, which seemed to satisfy her. She expressed pride in my decision and offered an apology for not doing more when I was younger. I reassured her, acknowledging the challenges she faced at the time and appreciating the support she did provide when it truly mattered. Despite my family's admiration for my parents, I recognized that revealing their true nature would likely not be believed, and my aunt's intervention might have led to undesirable outcomes. While she's not flawless, her efforts on my behalf mean the world to me. As for my parents, I haven't communicated with them since their email, and it seems they're waiting for me to withdraw the lawsuit. However, it's been 4 days, and we've decided to pursue mediation first before considering court proceedings. Our goal is to reach an out-of-court settlement, given my parents' financial resources and culpability in this matter. Despite their attempts to paint me as the villain and jeopardize my business, I've remained steadfast in my resolve. Their desperate attempts to equate our actions only serve to highlight their deceit, whereas I merely sought to reveal the truth. Once mediation is concluded, I'm tempted to re-release the videos, as their true selves deserve to be exposed to the world. Update 3. Today, the court finalized the mediator for our negotiations, and we were promptly informed. Shortly after, my parents called me. I had temporarily unblocked them for this conversation to inquire about when I planned to withdraw the lawsuit, as they felt things were spiraling out of control. I made it clear that withdrawal wasn't an option, which sent them into a frenzy. The call descended into chaos, with their angry voices barely coherent amid the shouting. Eventually, I ended the call to escape the tumult. However, they immediately called back, and this time it was my father who took the lead. He accused me of provoking him and insisted that my actions wouldn't intimidate him. I stood my ground and delivered my own barrage of truths, expressing all the pent-up frustration and resentment I had harbored for so long. While the exchange was harsh, it was cathartic, and I feel a sense of relief after finally vocalizing my feelings to them. After ending the call, I refused to entertain further arguments and promptly hung up. However, they persisted in their attempts to sway me. They contacted my aunt, fabricating a narrative that I was suing them for baseless reasons, which couldn't have been further from the truth. Their manipulation tactics have lost their effectiveness over time, especially with my aunt, who wasn't easily swayed. Unmoved by their pleas, she echoed my stance, offering sympathy but making it clear that their behavior was unacceptable. Threatening to involve the authorities if they continued to harass her, she effectively shut down their attempts. Following this exchange, there was a temporary respite from their barrage until the evening. It seems my parents had resorted to a desperate strategy, contacting every family member to garner support. Consequently, I received a flood of identical messages from various relatives, all echoing my parents' false narrative. It was painfully obvious that my parents had orchestrated this campaign, hoping to pressure me into relenting. Their concerted efforts to salvage the situation only served to highlight their desperation now that they realized the gravity of their predicament. Update 4. The proceedings have commenced, and we're currently on a lunch break. I'm jotting this down while riding the subway. Despite my parents' aggressive demeanor, it's evident that they're on the losing end. If they want to avoid court, they'll need to acquiesce to our terms. I'm fortunate to have such supportive friends and business partners who stood by me throughout this ordeal. Their unwavering support means the world to me. Just moments ago, one of my friends offered a listening ear, recognizing the emotional toll this situation has taken on me. Despite the challenges posed by my parents, I'm grateful for the blessings in my life, including loving friends and an aunt who cares deeply for me.
The crisp autumn wind carried the scent of pumpkin spice and freshly baked goods as I made my way down Main Street, clutching a stack of flyers for the annual Harvest Festival. The town square bustled with activity, and I couldn't help but smile at the familiar faces setting up booths and decorating the park's gazebo with vibrant fall foliage. "Lila, over here!" My heart sank as I turned to find my sister, Marla, waving me over with a saccharine smile plastered across her perfectly made-up face. Even after a decade, The sight of her still stirred a whirlwind of emotions within me. Anger, resentment, and a lingering sadness that our bond had shattered beyond repair. "Marla," I managed, forcing a tight-lipped smile. "Fancy seeing you here." Her eyes narrowed ever so slightly, zeroing in on the flyers in my hands. "Still running that quaint little bookstore of yours, I see." The condescending lilt in her voice was like nails on a chalkboard. "Yes, and it's doing quite well, thank you." Marla let out a derisive laugh, shaking her head. "You always were the hopeless romantic, clinging to those outdated dreams. When are you going to wake up and join the real world, Lila? A successful single woman like you shouldn't be wasting her time on such frivolous pursuits." My knuckles turned white as I gripped the flyers, fighting the urge to hurl them at her smug face. "At least I'm living an authentic life, Marla, instead of the facade you've so carefully constructed." Her eyes narrowed dangerously. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You know exactly what I mean," I shot back, my voice trembling with barely contained rage. "You've always been jealous of me, ever since we were kids. That's why you did what you did. Stole Evan right from under me, just like you stole everything else that meant something to me." Marla's perfectly sculpted mask slipped, revealing a flash of the ugly, seething envy that lurked beneath. "Don't flatter yourself, Lila. Evan was never yours to begin with. He just realized what a pathetic, delusional loser you are and came to his senses." Her words cut deep, ripping open old wounds that had never truly healed. But this time, something within me shifted. A burning determination ignited in my chest, fueled by a decade's worth of pent-up anger and resentment. "Keep telling yourself that, Marla," I said, my voice low and steady. "But we both know the truth. And one day, everyone else will too." With that, I turned on my heel and strode away, leaving her sputtering behind me. The time for cowering in her shadow was over. This was the start of something new, a reckoning years in the making, where the scales of justice would finally tip in my favor. No more playing the victim. It was time for Marla to face the consequences of her actions. As I stormed away from my encounter with Marla, memories came flooding back like a tidal wave, threatening to drown me in their bitter currents. It started when we were kids, really. Marla was always the favorite, the golden child who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. While I was the shy, bookish one, content to lose myself in the pages of a novel, Marla craved the spotlight, demanding attention with her antics and tantrums. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" Mom would chide, her brow furrowed in disappointment whenever I fell short of Marla's lofty standards. Things only escalated as we grew older. In high school, Marla ruled the social scene, her posse of sycophants trailing in her wake. She snatched up the captain's position on the cheerleading squad, as well as the lead role in every school play. "Who would want to watch a play with you as the star, Lila?" she sneered when I dared to audition. "You're about as interesting as a piece of wet cardboard." And then came Evan, the one bright spot in my life, the kindred spirit who saw something in me that no one else did. We met during our freshman year of college and instantly clicked, our shared love of literature, and quiet nights spent reading together forming an unbreakable bond. At least I thought it was unbreakable. "Evan and I are getting married," Marla announced over dinner one night, her perfectly manicured nails gleaming as she flashed her gaudy engagement ring. The world seemed to tilt on its axis as I stared at her, dumbfounded. Evan, my Evan, had proposed to Marla? The pieces started to fall into place. The hushed phone calls, the sudden cancellations of our dates, the distant look in his eyes. "How could you?" I whispered, my voice cracking with the weight of his betrayal. Marla simply shrugged, a cruel smirk twisting her lips. He wanted a real woman, not some mousy little wallflower. Can you blame him? Our parents remained eerily silent, their stunned expressions soon giving way to poorly concealed delight. Finally, their golden child was getting the happily ever after she deserved. That night, as I lay in bed listening to Marla's peals of laughter drifting down the hall, a hard knot of determination took root within me. She might have won this round, but I wouldn't go down without a fight. It was time to turn the tables on my so-called sister. The next morning I confronted Evan, demanding answers. But his words were little more than a slew of excuses and half-truths, each one more pathetic than the last. "I'm sorry, Lila, but your sister, she's just got this fire, this passion that I can't resist." His voice trailed off, his gaze averting from mine as if he couldn't bear to see the devastation etched across my face. In that moment, I knew there was no salvaging our relationship, no coming back from the depths of his deception. Marla had well and truly poisoned the well, her venomous influence seeping into every crevice of what we'd once shared. As I watched Evan slink away, shoulders hunched in defeat, a cold clarity washed over me. If Marla wanted to play dirty, then so be it. This was war, and I wouldn't rest until I emerged victorious, even if it meant razing her precious fairy tale to the ground. I slammed the door behind me, leaning back against the cool wood as I fought to catch my breath. My heart thudded painfully in my chest, the echoes of Evan's feeble excuses still ringing in my ears. A soft knock made me jump, and I whirled around to find Theo standing in the hallway, his brow furrowed in concern. "Lila? Are you all right?" I heard yelling. I opened my mouth to respond, but the words caught in my throat, a choked sob escaping instead. Tears I'd been holding back for far too long spilled down my cheeks, and I found myself enveloped in Theo's comforting embrace. He was an unlikely friend, the shy, socially awkward tech genius who lived down the hall. We'd bonded over our shared love of books and penchant for staying in on Friday nights, content in each other's company. "It's Marla," I managed finally, pulling away to swipe at my damp cheeks. "She's done something unforgivable." Theo's expression hardened, and he guided me into my apartment, settling us on the worn sofa. "Tell me everything." And so I did, the whole sordid tale spilling from my lips in a torrent of heartbreak and fury. Theo listened without interruption, his jaw tightening as I recounted Marla's latest betrayal. "That manipulative, lying snake," he muttered when I'd finished. "She's gotten away with this for far too long, Lila. It's time we put a stop to her games once and for all." I blinked, taken aback by the steely determination in his voice. Theo was always the voice of reason, the level-headed counterbalance to my occasional bouts of recklessness. "What do you mean?" I asked warily. He leaned forward, his eyes glinting with a newfound intensity. "We're going to expose her for the fraud she really is. Strip away that perfect facade she's so carefully constructed and show everyone the truth that she's nothing but a selfish, conniving witch who'll stop at nothing to get what she wants." A slow smile spread across my face as the weight of his words sank in. Revenge, sweet, delicious revenge, was finally within my grasp. "How?" I breathed, my pulse quickening at the thought. Theo's smile turned feral, sending a shiver down my spine. "Leave that to me. I might not be much of a fighter, but I know my way around a computer system better than anyone. If there's dirt to be found on your sister, I'll find it." Over the next few weeks, Theo became my co-conspirator, my trusted ally in the battle against Marla's tyranny. He hacked into her emails, her bank records, her social media accounts, unearthing a trail of lies and deceptions that would make even the most hardened cynic blush. Financial misdeeds, extramarital affairs, backstabbing her so-called friends. No stone was left unturned as we meticulously compiled our arsenal of evidence. With each new revelation, the flames of my determination burned brighter, fueled by the knowledge that soon, very soon, Marla's reign of terror would come crashing down around her. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" Theo asked one night as we pored over the mountain of incriminating files. "There's no going back once we pull the trigger." I met his gaze, unwavering. "She brought this on herself. It's long past time Marla faced the consequences of her actions." A slow smile spread across his lips and he gave a solemn nod. "Then let's burn that bitch's world to the ground." The evidence was damning. A meticulously curated trail of infidelities, financial indiscretions, and outright lies that would make even the most hardened criminal blush. As Theo and I pored over the files, I could feel the righteousness of our cause burning within me, stoking the flames of a long simmering fury. "Your sister really is a piece of work, isn't she?" Theo muttered, shaking his head in disbelief as he scrolled through yet another lurid email exchange between Marla and her latest boy toy. I shot him a withering glance. "You're telling me I've been dealing with her lies and manipulations my entire life." He let out a low whistle. "Well, she certainly made a mess of things this time. The question is, what are we going to do about it?" A slow, feral grin spread across my face as the pieces finally clicked into place. "We're going to give her exactly what she deserves, a taste of her own medicine." Theo arched an eyebrow, intrigued. Do tell. Over the next few hours, we hashed out the details of our plan. A meticulously orchestrated takedown that would strip Marla of every last shred of her carefully cultivated dignity. No more hiding behind her pristine veneer, no more playing the doting wife and beloved daughter. It was time for the world to see her for the duplicitous snake she truly was. We'll start by planting seeds of doubt, I explained, tapping my finger against the stack of incriminating documents. Leak a few choice tidbits to the right people. Let the whispers and sideways glances begin to chip away at her perfect image. Theo nodded, his expression grim. And then we go for the jugular. Release everything we've got in one fell swoop. Let the truth detonate like a nuclear bomb right in the middle of her precious little fairy tale. Exactly. My gaze hardened, steely with resolve. I want her to lose everything. Her sham of a marriage, her status, her reputation. I want her to feel the same burning humiliation she inflicted on me all those years ago. For a moment, Theo's eyes softened, and he reached across the table to take my hand in his calloused grip. Are you sure about this, Lila? This is a point of no return. Once we set this plan in motion, there's no going back. I met his gaze, unflinching. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Marla has lied and cheated and stolen her way through life for far too long. It's time she learned that actions have consequences. His lips curved into a grim smile, and he gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. Then let's make that bitch pay. Over the next few weeks, we put our plan into motion, gradually leaking choice morsels from our trove of evidence to select members of our social circle. At first, the reveals were subtle, a whispered rumor here, a meaningful glance there, but soon, the doubts began to take root. I could see it in the way Marla's closest friends started to regard her with narrowed eyes, in the stony silences that greeted her at book club meetings and Sunday brunches. Little by little, the cracks in her meticulously constructed facade began to show, spiderwebbing outward until the whole sham threatened to crumble beneath the weight of its own deceit. And still, we kept the pressure on, releasing more damning evidence with every passing week. Sordid photos, incriminating audio recordings, bank statements detailing her financial treachery, nothing was off limits in our quest to decimate her credibility. Throughout it all, Marla remained blissfully oblivious, her perfectly coiffed head held high as she swanned through town, utterly convinced of her own untouchability. Her arrogance only fueled my determination, stoking the flames of a long-simmering fury that would soon erupt into an inferno of retribution. Because the best was yet to come, the grand finale that would reduce her entire world to ashes. I could hardly wait. The whispers had begun, a steady undercurrent of doubt and suspicion that rippled through our once idyllic town, eroding the foundations of Marla's carefully constructed fairy tale. I could see it in the sidelong glances and thinly veiled sneers that followed her wherever she went, the once adoring masses now regarding her with a newfound wariness. It was working, I realized with a quiet thrill of satisfaction. Our drip feed of damning evidence was having the desired effect, ripping away the layers of artifice and exposing the rot that lay festering beneath Marla's immaculate veneer. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. We needed to go bigger, to plant the seeds of discord deeper, if we were to ensure the total annihilation of her pristine reputation. Time for phase 2, Theo murmured, his expression grim as he handed me a thick manila envelope. I raised an eyebrow, thumbing through the contents, a dossier packed with incriminating photos, financial statements, and transcripts of Marla's most salacious indiscretions. Are you sure about this? I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. Once we put this out there, there's no taking it back. Theo's jaw tightened, his eyes hardening with resolve. She made her bed, Lila. Now she has to lie in it. With a steadying breath, I nodded. It was now or never. Over the next few weeks, I embarked on a whirlwind tour of reconnection, reaching out to our once tight circle of family and friends with the guise of reconciliation. Coffees and long lunches were had, old bonds rekindled under the pretense of burying the hatchet and moving forward. All the while, I subtly steered the conversations toward Marla, sharing carefully curated snippets from the dossier that painted a vivid picture of her betrayals and moral failings. I can't believe she did that to you, Mom gasped, her eyes wide with horror as she pored over the damning evidence. "Oh, Lila, I'm so sorry. We never should have taken her side." Dad merely shook his head in stunned silence, his expression stricken as the full weight of Marla's deceptions finally sank in. One by one, the dominoes began to fall, each revelation stripping away another layer of blind loyalty, until the full, ugly truth was laid bare. By the time I was done, our once impenetrable inner circle had been thoroughly turned, their allegiances shifting in the wake of Marla's undeniable transgressions. Even Evan, her hapless husband, found himself wavering as the sordid details of her infidelities and financial treachery came to light. "I can't believe she'd do this to me," he muttered, running a hand through his hair as he stared at the incriminating photos. "After everything." His voice trailed off, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a pang of sympathy for the man who had once been my world. But the feeling was quickly quashed, smothered beneath the weight of his own betrayal all those years ago. He'd made his bed, too. Now he could damn well lie in it. With each encounter, each deftly planted revelation, I could feel the tides beginning to turn in my favor, the ground slowly but surely shifting beneath Marla's feet. Her downfall was imminent, and I savored the anticipation like a fine vintage wine, letting it linger on my tongue as I bided my time. Because soon, very soon, I would have my reckoning, and Marla would finally answer for the lifetime of hurt and humiliation she'd inflicted upon me. This time, there would be no manipulations or lies to sway the judgment, only the cold, hard truth laid bare for all to see. I could hardly wait. The air was thick with anticipation as our family and friends gathered at Mom and Dad's house for what I had billed as a long-overdue reunion. Marla, of course, was fashionably late, a perfectly calculated move to ensure all eyes were on her as she swept into the living room, her every step oozing false graciousness. "So wonderful to have everyone together again," she simpered, air-kissing her way around the room as if she were royalty bestowing favor upon her subjects. I watched in stony silence, feeling the weight of the manila envelope burning a hole in my purse. Tonight was the night, the culmination of months of meticulous planning and strategizing. By the time the evening was through, Marla's reign of deceit would be nothing more than a smoldering ruin. "Let's get started, shall we?" I said, rising to my feet and gesturing for Marla to join me at the front of the room. "I think it's high time we cleared the air about a few things." Marla's perfectly arched brows knit together in a slight frown, but she acquiesced with a saccharine smile, ever the gracious hostess. Little did she know, her world was about to come crashing down around her. "For years, you've peddled this fiction, this carefully constructed fairy tale about who you are and what our relationship is," I began, my voice steady despite the pounding of my heart. "You've lied and manipulated and backstabbed everyone around you, all in service of maintaining your precious image." Marla's smile faltered, the first cracks beginning to show in her impeccable mask. "Lila, what are you talking about? Don't play dumb, Marla. It's over." I pulled the envelope from my purse, letting its damning contents spill across the coffee table in a cascade of incriminating evidence. "The truth is finally out." A hushed gasp rippled through the room as our friends and family leaned in, their gazes riveted on the lurid photos and bank statements that laid bare the full extent of Marla's betrayals. Infidelities, financial crimes, blatant lies, it was all there, exposed for the world to see in glaring, undeniable detail. Marla's face, drained of color, her perfectly painted lips parting in a silent scream of outrage as the reality of her situation began to sink in. You did this. How could you?" A bitter laugh escaped my lips as I regarded her with cold disdain. "How could I? That's rich, coming from you. You've spent our entire lives undermining me, stealing everything that should have been mine. Well, no more. This is your reckoning, Marla. The consequences you've been dodging for far too long." "That's a lie," she snarled, rounding on our shell-shocked parents with pleading eyes. "You can't possibly believe this nonsense. It's all a bunch of doctored photos and falsified documents. I swear!" But the certainty had already seeped from her voice, cracking beneath the weight of the incriminating evidence that surrounded her. One by one, Mom and Dad, our friends, even Evan himself began to nod in grim acceptance, their eyes reflecting a newfound hardness as the scales finally fell from their eyes. "I think we've seen more than enough, Marla." Dad said quietly, his voice heavy with a weariness that spoke of decades of being manipulated and misled. It's over. A strangled sound escaped Marla's throat, a guttural cry of anguished disbelief as the full weight of her deceptions came crashing down upon her. In that moment she was utterly alone, cast adrift in a sea of contempt and censure, with no allies, no lifelines to cling to. As I watched her crumple to the floor in a heap of designer clothes and smeared makeup, a profound sense of vindication washed over me. At long last justice had been served, and I had been the one to deliver it. The sweet taste of victory had never been so intoxicating. The aftermath of my grand revelation was swift and brutal, a reckoning that left Marla's once charmed life in smoldering ruins. As the shock wore off and the true depths of her deceptions came to light, a palpable shift took place, the tide of public opinion turning decisively against her. Suddenly, the same people who had once fawned over her every move couldn't be bothered to make eye contact, their faces a study in thinly veiled disdain and revulsion. Marla's supposedly dear friends dropped her like a bad habit, their long-standing allegiances crumbling beneath the weight of her exposed betrayals. Even our own family wasn't spared the fallout. Mom and Dad, so long blinded by Marla's manipulations, now regarded her with a potent mix of disappointment and simmering anger. "How could you do this to us?" Mom demanded during one particularly heated exchange, her eyes rimmed with unshed tears. "After everything we've done for you, all the chances we gave you." Marla, for once, was uncharacteristically subdued, her usual bravado nowhere to be found. "I'm sorry," she mumbled, her gaze downcast and lifeless. "I never meant to hurt anyone." The words rang hollow, a feeble attempt at contrition that did little to salve the wounds her deceit had inflicted. Dad merely shook his head, his expression hardening. "Save it, Marla. You made your bed. Now you have to lie in it." And what a bed it was, a tangled web of lies and indiscretions that quickly began to unravel with every passing day. Photos of her numerous affairs surfaced online, igniting a firestorm of scandal that left her reputation in tatters. Financial discrepancies were unearthed, hinting at potential legal troubles on the horizon. Even Evan, her hapless husband, couldn't turn a blind eye any longer, filing for divorce amidst a torrent of sordid revelations about her infidelity. Through it all, I watched with a strange sense of detachment, as if observing the implosion of someone else's life from a great distance. Gone was the seething rage that had once consumed me, replaced by a profound sense of catharsis, a weight lifted from my shoulders after years of carrying the burden of Marla's betrayals. She had brought this upon herself, I reminded myself whenever a flicker of residual guilt threatened to take hold. This was justice, pure and simple. The scales finally balanced after a lifetime of being tipped in her favor. Still, a part of me couldn't help but feel a twinge of pity as I watched Marla's world crumble around her. She had become a pariah, shunned and reviled by the very people who had once hung on her every word. Her once vibrant spirit was utterly extinguished, replaced by a hollow shell of a woman who seemed to drift through life in a perpetual haze of shame and regret. It was during one such encounter, as I passed her on the street and caught a glimpse of her haunted expression, that a sudden clarity washed over me. This broken, pathetic creature was the true Marla, stripped bare of all her pretenses and deceptions, and in that moment I realized that I had already won. There was no need for further retribution or grandstanding. Her downfall was complete, her infamous reign of terror reduced to ashes and ruin. All that remained was for me to turn my back on the smoldering wreckage and begin charting a new course, one free from the shackles of her influence and the bitter chains of the past. As I walked away, head held high and shoulders squared, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of lightness, as if a great weight had finally been lifted from my soul. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years it belonged solely to me. Marla's fall from grace was absolute, and I, the forgotten sister she had wronged so deeply, had not only survived it, I had emerged victorious. In the weeks and months that followed Marla's spectacular downfall, an odd sort of calm settled over my life. The all-consuming fury that had once burned like a raging inferno within me had finally been extinguished, leaving in its wake a profound sense of peace and acceptance. Oh, there were still moments when the old resentments threatened to resurface. a passing glimpse of Marla's haunted, hollow-eyed stare, or an errant comment from a well-meaning friend that dredged up the lingering pain of her betrayals. But those moments were fleeting, mere hiccups in my newfound state of tranquility. Because at long last I was free from the shackles of Marla's manipulations and the bitter chains of the past that had bound me for far too long. With her reign of deceit laid bare and her carefully cultivated image reduced to ash, the power she'd held over me had simply evaporated like a puff of acrid smoke dispersed by the winds of change. It was an odd sort of victory, I mused as I wandered the sun-dappled aisles of my bookstore one crisp autumn morning. Not the blaze of glory I might have once envisioned, with Marla beaten and humbled at my feet. No, this was something quieter, more profound. A reclamation of self, a shedding of old skins, and the rebirth of my own sense of worth and identity. "Hey, you!" The soft tenor of Theo's voice drew me from my reverie, and I turned to find him leaning against the doorframe, a hesitant smile playing at the corners of his mouth. My heart gave a treacherous little flutter at the sight of him. My co-conspirator, my partner in vengeance, and perhaps something more? "Hey, yourself," I replied, arching an eyebrow in silent query. "Everything okay?" He drew in a steadying breath, seeming to steel himself for whatever words were about to come tumbling out. I wanted to check in, see how you're doing with, well, everything." My lips curved in a rueful smile. "You mean with taking down the Wicked Witch of the Midwest?" Theo's grin widened, the familiar teasing glint returning to his eyes. "Something like that, yeah." I shrugged, aiming for nonchalance, even as my pulse quickened beneath the weight of his steady gaze. "I'm good, Theo. Better than good, actually. For the first time in longer than I can remember, I feel free." His expression softened, those warm eyes of his drinking me in with an intensity that sent a shiver racing down my spine. "I'm glad to hear that, Lila. Really glad." We lapsed into silence then, the words hanging heavy and electric between us. In that moment, I could have sworn I saw a flicker of something deeper in Theo's gaze. A promise, a beckoning toward new horizons and uncharted territory. But before I could gather the courage to give voice to the questions burning on the tip of my tongue, the spell was broken by the cheerful tinkling of the bell above the door, heralding the arrival of a customer. Theo blinked, his cheeks flushing slightly as he stepped back and cleared his throat. "Well, I should let you get back to it. Just, you know where to find me if you need anything, right?" I nodded, my own face growing warm as I scrambled to regain my composure. "Of course, always." With one last lingering look, he turned and slipped out into the bustling street, leaving me to ponder the myriad of possibilities that seemed to stretch out before me. New vistas waiting to be explored, unfettered by the baggage of the past. As I watched Theo's retreating form disappear into the crowd, I couldn't help but feel a spark of hope flicker to life deep within my chest. A new chapter was unfolding, one penned by my own hand and ruled not by the whims of others, but by the simple truths that had guided me through my darkest hours: resilience, determination, justice. Marla's reign was over. It was my turn to take the stage, and this time I had every intention of basking in the spotlight.
The photo hit my phone at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I remember because I was stirring honey into my tea, watching the amber liquid swirl, when everything I knew about my life dissolved like sugar in hot water. It wasn't even meant for me. Someone from Sarah's contact list must have forwarded it, probably thinking they were doing the right thing. There she was, sprawled across my Egyptian cotton sheets, the ones with the delicate blue pattern I'd spent weeks choosing, wearing my silk robe, the one Ray gave me for our anniversary. My hand shook so badly I dropped my spoon. It clattered against the kitchen counter, spattering tea across the marble. The same marble Ray and I had argued about during our renovation. He'd insisted on the expensive Italian slabs. Now I wondered if he'd been trying to buy his way out of guilt even then. I zoomed in on the photo, though every pixel felt like a needle in my chest. Sarah's red lipstick was smeared slightly, the same shade she'd borrowed from my makeup bag last month. "This is the perfect red for me," she'd gushed. "Where did you find it?" Now I knew why she wanted to match my color palette. The worst part wasn't even the intimacy of the pose or the violation of my space. It was her smile. That satisfied, secret smile I'd seen 1,000 times across coffee cups and wine glasses. My best friend's smile. Only now it wasn't meant for me. "Allison?" Ray's voice from the hallway made me jump. I could hear his keys hitting the bowl by the door, the routine sound of my husband coming home early from work, coming home to me. I locked my phone, but my fingers left sweaty smudges on the screen. "In the kitchen," I called back, amazed at how steady my voice sounded, like I hadn't just discovered my world was built on quicksand. He appeared in the doorway, jacket slung over his shoulder, tie already loosened, handsome as ever with his architect's glasses and carefully messy hair. How many times had Sarah watched him walk through that same door? "You're home early," I said, the words tasting like acid. "Client meeting cancelled." He smiled, that easy, charming smile that had first made me fall for him. Now I wondered if he'd practiced it in mirrors. "Thought we could grab an early dinner? Maybe that new Thai place?" I looked down at my tea, now growing cold. A few hours ago, I would have loved an impromptu dinner date. Now, all I could think about was Sarah's lipstick on my sheets, her perfume probably still lingering in my bedroom air. "Actually," I said, picking up my phone, "I think we need to talk about this." I turned the screen toward him, watching his face carefully. The change was subtle, a slight tightening around his eyes, a barely perceptible step backward, but after 12 years of marriage, I could read him like a blueprint. "Ali, I can explain," he started, using my pet name like a shield. "Don't." The word came out sharp enough to cut glass. "Don't you dare Ali me right now." He set his jacket down slowly, like he was trying not to startle a wild animal. "It's not what you think." "Really?" I laughed, and the sound scared even me. "Because I think my husband has been fucking my best friend in our bed. Please, Ray, tell me how that's not what I think." His face did something complicated, guilt and defiance wrestling for control. "It just happened. We never meant—" "How long?" When he hesitated, I slammed my hand on the counter. Tea sloshed over the rim of my cup. "How? Long?" "6 months," he whispered. 6 months. Half a year of lunches with Sarah where she'd listened to me talk about my marriage. Half a year of dinner parties where they'd sat across from each other at our table, passing the salt with secret smiles. Half a year of me living in a reality that didn't exist. I pulled out my phone again, fingers moving before my brain could catch up. I opened my messages to Sarah, seeing our last exchange about meeting for coffee tomorrow. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. "What are you doing?" Ray asked, tension threading through his voice. I looked up at him, at this stranger wearing my husband's face. "Setting up a meeting," I said calmly. "Sarah and I are overdue for a chat, don't you think?" "Allison, wait." But I was already typing. "Can we move coffee earlier? There's something important I need to discuss." I hit send before he could stop me. 3 dots appeared immediately. Sarah was typing back, probably from my bed, probably wearing my robe, probably thinking she still had the upper hand. She had no idea what was coming. The cafe where Sarah and I first met looks different now. Smaller somehow. The vintage travel posters, that once seemed charming, now just look faded and tired. Or maybe that's just me, seeing everything through betrayal-tinted glasses. I arrived 20 minutes early, choosing our usual corner table. The one where we'd spent countless Sunday mornings planning our futures over lattes. Where she'd held my hand through my mother's cancer diagnosis. Where I'd helped her draft resignation letters and dating profiles and birthday party plans. Where she'd probably sat planning how to sleep with my husband. "Your usual?" Eliza, the owner, asks as she approaches. Her smile falters when she sees my face. "Honey, are you okay?" I manage something approximating a smile. "Just tired. And yes, please." She hesitates like she wants to say more, but just nods and heads back to the counter. I wonder if she knew, if everyone knew except me. The bell above the door chimes at exactly 9:30. Sarah always was punctual, a quality I used to admire. She spots me and waves, unwinding her scarf as she approaches. She's wearing the green sweater I helped her pick out last month. The sight of it makes me want to scream. "You're early." She bends to hug me, and I catch a whiff of her perfume, Chanel No. 5. The same scent that had lingered on my pillowcase last week. I'd thought Ray had knocked over my bottle. I lean away from the hug. "Sit down, Sarah." Something in my tone makes her pause. She slides into the chair across from me, her smile wavering slightly. "Is everything okay? Your text seemed urgent." I reach into my bag and pull out an envelope, placing it carefully on the table between us. "Open it. What's this?" She reaches for it, perfectly manicured nails catching the light. How many times had those nails traced patterns on my husband's skin? "Just open it." She does, pulling out the photo I'd printed. I watch her face as she registers what she's looking at. The color drains from her cheeks so quickly I think she might faint. "Allison," she starts, but I cut her off. 6 months, I say quietly. "That's what Ray told me. Is that true?" She sets the photo down with trembling hands. "I can explain." "Explain what? How you fucked my husband in my bed? How you sat across from me at brunch every weekend, listening to me talk about my marriage while you were destroying it?" "It wasn't like that." Her voice cracks. "We never meant to hurt you." I laugh, and several nearby customers turn to look. "Oh, that's rich. How exactly did you think this would play out, Sarah? What was the endgame here?" "We fell in love," she whispers. The words hit me like a physical blow. "Love," I repeat, tasting bile. "You want to talk about love? I loved you like a sister. I trusted you with everything." "I know." Tears spill down her cheeks. "I hate myself for hurting you." "Not enough to stop, though, right?" I lean forward. "Tell me something. Was it worth it? Was he worth throwing away 15 years of friendship?" She doesn't answer, just stares at her hands folded in her lap. The same hands that had helped me plan my wedding. The same hands that had apparently been undressing my husband for half a year. "Here's what's going to happen," I continue, my voice steady despite the earthquake in my chest. "You're going to tell me everything. Every detail, every lie, every time you looked me in the eye and pretended to be my friend while sleeping with my husband. And then you're going to disappear from my life." "Please," she says, reaching across the table. "We can fix this. We can—" I pull my hand back sharply, knocking over my untouched latte. Coffee spreads across the table like a dark stain. Like the truth, seeping into everything it touches. "Fix this?" I stand up, my chair scraping against the floor. "There's nothing to fix, Sarah. You and Ray broke something that can't be repaired. But don't worry, I'm not just going to disappear quietly." She looks up at me, mascara running down her cheeks. "What do you mean?" I pull out my phone, showing her the business card I'd photographed this morning. Martin Crawford, divorce attorney. Apparently, he specializes in cases involving infidelity. I have an appointment with him tomorrow. "Allison, wait. Oh, and Sarah." I pause, shouldering my bag. "You might want to check your social media. Those privacy settings you never quite figured out. They're about to become very relevant." I walk out of the cafe without looking back, leaving her with the photo and the spreading coffee stain. My hands are shaking, but my mind is clear. For the first time since yesterday, I know exactly what I'm going to do. The war has officially begun. The espresso machine in my kitchen feels like an old friend, the only one I can trust right now. Its familiar hum fills the morning silence as I prepare for my meeting with the divorce attorney. 3 shots of espresso probably isn't healthy, but neither is finding out your husband and best friend have been having an affair. My phone buzzes. Another message from Ray. "Please talk to me, we can work this out." I delete it without responding, just like the previous 12. The wedding ring on my finger catches the morning light, and I twist it off, setting it beside my laptop. The tan line beneath looks like an accusation. The doorbell startles me out of my thoughts. Through the peephole, I see Margaret from next door, holding what looks suspiciously like a sympathy casserole. "I brought lasagna," she says when I open the door, "and wine. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right?" I almost refuse, but something in her expression stops me. Not pity, understanding. "Come in," I say, stepping aside. She follows me to the kitchen, setting down her offerings. I heard the shouting yesterday, she says carefully, and I saw Ray leaving with a suitcase. News travels fast. I grab 2 wine glasses, even though it's barely 9 a.m. Did you also hear about Sarah? Margaret's pause tells me everything. You knew, I realize, the betrayal fresh again. How long? She pours the wine, pushing a glass toward me. I saw them once, about 2 months ago, in his car outside the house. I wasn't sure if I should tell you. I didn't want to be the messenger getting shot. I wish you had. I take a long sip. I feel like such an idiot. You're not an idiot, Margaret says firmly. You're someone who trusted the people who promised to love you. That's not stupid, it's human. My phone buzzes again. Sarah this time. I show Margaret the message. Please don't do anything rash. Let's talk about this. Rash, Margaret reads, eyebrows rising. What exactly is she afraid of? I open my laptop, turning it to show her the draft of my social media post. This, probably. She leans forward, reading the carefully worded exposition of their betrayal, complete with dated evidence and screenshots of their not-so-careful text messages. Her eyes widen. Holy shit, Allison. This would destroy them. That's the point. I take another drink. They destroyed my life. Why shouldn't I return the favor? Because you're better than that, a voice says from the doorway. I turn to find my sister Lucia standing there, still in her hospital scrubs. Margaret texted me, she explains before I can ask. I don't want to be better, I say, but my voice cracks. I want them to hurt like I'm hurting. Lucia crosses the kitchen and wraps her arms around me. I resist for a moment before collapsing into her embrace, tears finally breaking free. I know, she whispers, but this isn't you. Then who am I? I pull back, wiping my eyes. Because I don't recognize myself anymore. The old Allison trusted people. The old Allison believed in love and friendship and happily ever after. Look where that got her. The old Allison also knew the difference between justice and revenge, Lucia says quietly. Before I can respond, my phone rings. The attorney's office. I answer, listening as his secretary confirms our appointment. When I hang up, both women are watching me expectantly. I'm meeting him at 11, I tell them. And I'm going through with the social media post. They don't get to hide what they did. At least sleep on it, Margaret suggests. The post will still be there tomorrow. I'm about to argue when my laptop pings with a new email. From someone named August Stanley, subject line, Re, your husband's affair. The message is brief. Saw your draft post in Sarah's messages. She's been screenshot sharing with friends. I run a relationship advice blog with 500k followers. If you're planning to go public, let's talk strategy. This story deserves to be told right. My heart races as I read it aloud to Lucia and Margaret. See, I say, the universe is giving me a sign. The universe is giving you a stranger on the internet who wants to exploit your pain for clicks, Lucia counters, but I'm already typing a response to August. Because here's what my sister doesn't understand. When your life becomes a tragedy, sometimes the only way forward is to take control of the narrative. I'm doing this, I tell them both. But I'll wait until after meeting with the attorney. I want to do this smart, not just angry. Lucia sighs but nods. Okay, but I'm coming with you to the attorney. And we're eating this lasagna first. No one should face a divorce lawyer on an empty stomach. As they busy themselves with plates and forks, I stare at August's email. Maybe Lucia's right about him wanting to exploit my story. But right now, I'll take an exploitative ally over a treacherous friend. Besides, Sarah always did hate bad publicity. The glow of my laptop screen feels accusatory at 4 a.m. I've been up all night, crafting the perfect social media campaign with August's help. My eyes burn, but sleep feels like surrender right now. Besides, my bed still smells like betrayal. The key is timing. August's latest message reads, We need to coordinate across platforms for maximum impact. But are you sure you're ready for the backlash? I take another sip of cold coffee, grimacing at the bitter taste. Am I ready? The meeting with the divorce attorney yesterday left me feeling both empowered and exhausted. "Your case is strong," he'd said, "but social media exposure could complicate things." My phone lights up. Ray again. This time it's different though. Not a plea, but a threat. "If you go public with this, you'll regret it. There are things you don't know." My hands shake as I screenshot the message and send it to August. His response is immediate. "This changes things. He's scared. What doesn't he want you to know?" Before I can respond, my laptop pings with a notification. Someone's commenting on my professional photography page. The business I built while Ray was apparently building a different kind of partnership. "Homewrecker," the comment reads. "You drove them together with your obsession with work. Sarah told us everything." My stomach lurches. I click through to find dozens of similar comments, all from accounts I don't recognize. They're attacking my work, my character, my marriage. Sarah's friends, I realize. She started her own campaign. "You seeing this?" August messages. "They're trying to control the narrative. Classic gaslighting technique." I start typing a response when my doorbell rings. My heart jumps. It's not even dawn yet. Through the peephole, I see Margaret in her robe, looking worried. "Your lights were on," she says when I open the door. "I saw you pacing from my window. Have you slept at all?" I let her in, leading her to my command center of laptops and coffee cups. "I can't sleep. They're already attacking me, Margaret. Look at this." She reads through the comments, her frown deepening. "This is awful. But Alison, it's 4 a.m. You need rest. What I need is to fight back." I show her the draft of my post, carefully worded, devastating in its detail. "August says we should launch it today." "August," she repeats, "the stranger from the internet who suddenly wants to help you destroy your ex-best friend. Don't you think that's convenient?" "What do you mean?" She sits down, choosing her words carefully. "Have you Googled him, checked his background? Because I did." My hands freeze over the keyboard. "What did you find?" "He's not just a relationship blogger. He's known for manufacturing social media scandals. He profits from other people's pain, Alison." The room seems to tilt slightly. I pull up his blog, really looking at it for the first time. The story's there. Affairs, betrayals, revenge. They all follow a pattern. Maximum drama, minimum healing. But he's helping me expose the truth, I argue, even as doubt creeps in. Is he? Or is he helping you become the villain in your own story? Margaret picks up Ray's threatening text. "Maybe instead of planning revenge, you should be asking what he's hiding." As if on cue, my phone buzzes with a message from Lucia. "Just got off my night shift. Sarah came into the ER. We need to talk." "What happened?" I text back immediately. "Not over text. Come to my place when you can. And sis, bring those screenshots you were planning to post." Margaret reads the exchange over my shoulder. "See? There's more happening here than you know. Before you launch this nuclear option, maybe you should get all the facts." I look at my carefully crafted revenge plan, then at Ray's threat, then at the cruel comments flooding my work page. The lines between victim and villain, truth and manipulation, are starting to blur. I'll go see Lucia, I decide, but I'm not deleting the post-draft, not yet. Fair enough. Margaret stands, heading for the door. "Just remember, once you put something like this out there, you can't take it back. Make sure your revenge doesn't become your regret." After she leaves, I send a quick message to August. "Need to delay the launch. Something came up." His response is immediate and oddly intense. "Don't let them manipulate you. This is your chance to take control." But for the first time since this started, I'm wondering who's really being manipulated here. I shut my laptop, grab my keys, and head for Lucia's place. Whatever Sarah told my sister in the ER, it's time to hear it. Because Margaret's right. Before I burn everything down, I need to be sure what's actually worth saving from the flames. Lucia's apartment smells like hospital antiseptic and fresh coffee. She's still in her scrubs, dark circles under her eyes matching mine. The morning sun streams through her kitchen window, making everything feel too bright, too exposed. Sarah had a panic attack, Lucia says, pushing a mug toward me. A bad one. She couldn't breathe, thought she was having a heart attack. Good, I say automatically, but the word feels hollow. She was asking for you, Lucia continues. Between gasps, she kept saying she had to tell you something, that she had to explain. I wrap my hands around the warm mug, anchoring myself. I don't want her explanations. Maybe you need them. Lucia pulls out her phone. She gave me this to show you. Said it explains everything. It's a video. Sarah's hands are shaking as she holds up a piece of paper. A medical report. The timestamp shows it's from 7 months ago, 1 month before the affair started. What am I looking at? Just watch. The Sarah in the video looks different from the polished woman I'd confronted in the cafe. Her face is bare, eyes red. Allison, she starts, then stops, swallowing hard. I found out Ray was sterile. He knew. He'd known for years. But he let you blame yourself for not getting pregnant. Let you go through all those treatments. My coffee sloshes as my hands begin to shake. Those 2 years of fertility treatments. The disappointment every month. Ray holding me as I cried, saying we'd keep trying. I confronted him, video Sarah continues. Told him he had to tell you the truth. He said he'd destroy my career if I did. Said he had evidence I'd falsified reports at work. He'd planted it himself, been planning it for months. That's why she started sleeping with him, Lucia says quietly. To get proof of what he'd done, to protect herself, and you. I stand up so quickly my chair falls backward. That's bullshit. She could have told me, should have told me. Could she? Lucia picks up my phone, opening my draft post. Look how quickly you were ready to destroy her, without knowing her side. Would you have believed her then? Stop defending her, but my voice cracks. She still slept with my husband. Yes, she did. And that was wrong. But this isn't the simple betrayal story August wants to sell. Speaking of which, Lucia slides a folder across the table. I did some digging. August's real name is Marcus Reeves. He's been sued 3 times for manipulating social media stories for profit. He finds vulnerable people and turns their pain into viral content. My legs give out and I sink back into my chair. Everything I thought I knew keeps shifting, like trying to stand on quicksand. I don't know what's true anymore. Here's what's true, Lucia says. Ray is a manipulative bastard who hurt both you and Sarah. August is trying to profit from your pain, and you're about to let anger make you do something you can't take back. My phone buzzes. August again. Where are you? We need to launch now while momentum is building. As I stare at his message, another notification pops up. A comment on my photography page. Sarah Evans ruined my life too. DM me. I have proof of other affairs. It's Ray, I whisper, showing Lucia. He's creating fake accounts, trying to turn me against her even more. What are you going to do? I look at the video still playing on Lucia's phone, at Sarah's tear-stained face, at the medical report that proves my husband's betrayal started long before the affair. I need to talk to her, I say. The real her, not the version Ray and August want me to destroy. She's still at the hospital, Lucia says. Observation wing. I stand up, steadier this time. Will you come with me? Of course. She grabs her keys. But first, delete that draft post and block August. As I reach for my phone, it buzzes one final time. August again. Don't let them manipulate you. I've already scheduled the post. It goes live in 1 hour unless you stop it. My blood runs cold. He had access to my accounts. He must have, while he was helping me set everything up. We have an hour, Lucia says, already heading for the door. To get to the hospital, talk to Sarah, and figure out how to fight the real enemy here. She's right. I've been so focused on revenge, I couldn't see who really deserved it. But now I know, and Ray's about to learn what happens when you underestimate the women you've wronged. I follow Lucia out, leaving my coffee cooling on her counter. We have 1 hour to rewrite this story, and this time, we're telling the truth. The hospital corridor stretches endlessly ahead as Lucia leads me to Sarah's room. My phone shows 43 minutes until August's post goes live. Every step feels like walking through molasses, my body fighting against the direction my mind has chosen. Wait, I grab Lucia's arm. I need a minute. She glances at her watch but nods, guiding me to a nearby waiting area. The vinyl chairs squeak as we sit, the sound too loud in the quiet corridor. What if she's lying? I whisper. What if this is just another manipulation? Then we'll deal with it, Lucia says, but you need to hear her out. My phone buzzes. Ray, where are you? We need to talk now. Then another. Don't trust Sarah. She's not who you think she is. Funny, I mutter. That's exactly what I thought about you. I block his number, feeling a small surge of satisfaction. A nurse appears in the doorway. Are you Allison? She's asking for you. The walk to Sarah's room takes forever, and no time at all. She's sitting up in bed, looking small against the white sheets. No makeup, no carefully styled hair. Just Sarah, stripped of all pretense. Hi, she says softly. 38 minutes, I respond, holding up my phone. That's how long we have before August releases the post. Start talking. She takes a shaky breath. I found the fertility report by accident. Ray had left his email open on my laptop after a work meeting. When I confronted him, she trails off, hands twisting in the hospital blanket. He threatened you, I finish. Not just me. He had dirt on everyone. My brother's DUI, my mom's tax problems. He'd been collecting leverage for years, like he knew someday he'd need it. My stomach churns. So you slept with him? I needed proof of who he really was. I thought if I could get close enough, I could protect everyone. Protect you. Her voice breaks. I was wrong. So wrong. All I did was hurt you worse. Before I can respond, my phone pings with an email. From August to both Sarah and me. Great story coming together. The betrayed wife, the scheming friend. Ray's going to love watching you two destroy each other. Sarah's face goes pale. Ray's working with August. What? She grabs her own phone, hands shaking as she pulls up messages. Look, Ray introduced me to August months ago, said he was a PR consultant who could help manage the fallout when everything came out. I stare at the messages, my world tilting again. He planned this, all of it. He wanted us to turn on each other. While he came out looking like the victim caught between two crazy women, Sarah finishes. 25 minutes left. I start pacing, mind racing. Even if we stop August's post, Ray has everything he needs to ruin both of us. He's been playing us from the start. Not everything, a voice says from the doorway. Eliza from the cafe stands there, holding a laptop. Sorry, Lucia texted me. I think I have something you need to see. She opens the laptop, pulling up security footage from the cafe. Ray used to meet his other girlfriends at my place. Before both of you. I've been saving the footage, waiting for someone to finally catch on. Other girlfriends. Plural. The room spins slightly. 15 minutes, Lucia warns. I look at Sarah, really look at her. Past the betrayal and pain to the friend who held me through my mother's death, who apparently tried, in her own misguided way, to protect me. We've been fighting the wrong battle, I say slowly. Ray wanted us to destroy each other so we'd never compare notes, never put the whole picture together. Sarah sits up straighter. So let's give him exactly what he doesn't want. I grab my phone, fingers flying over the keys as I message August. Change of plans, new story coming your way, the real story. His response is immediate. No changes, we had a deal. Check your email, I type back. You're about to get something much better than a catfight between betrayed friends. I look at the women around me. My sister, my neighbor, my former best friend turned something complicated. Ready to tell the truth, Sarah reaches for her phone. Ready to finally fight the right enemy. 10 minutes until August's post goes live. But we have a different story to tell now. One about a master manipulator who didn't count on his victims comparing notes. One about women choosing truth over revenge. Ray's about to learn what happens when the pawns in his game start working together. I hit send on our first message to August, feeling the ground shift under my feet again. But this time, I'm not sinking. I'm standing firm, with allies at my side. The real war is just beginning. The cafe feels different at midnight. Eliza's kept it open late just for us, the usual warm bustle replaced by a tense quiet. My laptop screen glows in the dimness as we wait. Sarah sits beside me, not across from me this time. Lucia and Margaret flank us like guards. "He'll come," Eliza says, setting fresh coffee in front of us. Men like Ray can't resist trying to control the narrative. As if on cue, my phone lights up. "Ray, we need to talk. The cafe. Now." "Already here," I type back. "Bring August." Sarah's hands shake as she pulls up the document we've spent hours crafting. 6 women's stories, including ours. All manipulated, all threatened, all connected by Ray and August's elaborate scheme to create viral content from manufactured drama. "Are we sure about this?" Sarah whispers. Before I can answer, the bell above the door chimes. Ray walks in first, August close behind. They both stop short when they see our assembled group. "What is this?" Ray demands, his architect's glasses catching the low light. "This," I say, standing, "is what happens when women talk to each other." August steps forward, smooth as ever. "Ladies, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Save it." Eliza turns her laptop around, showing the cafe footage. "I have 3 years of your misunderstandings right here." Ray's face does something complicated, fear wrestling with anger. "Whatever you think you know, we know everything," Sarah cuts in. "Every threat, every manipulation, every woman you've used to create your little social media dramas." "And we have proof," I add, pulling up our document. "Want to see what happens when your victims compare notes?" August moves toward Ray, muttering something urgent, but Ray waves him off. "Allison," he says, using his reasonable voice, the one that used to make me doubt myself. "You're upset, I understand, but think about what you're doing." "I am thinking." I stand straighter. "I'm thinking about the fertility treatments you let me believe I needed, about the women you threatened and manipulated, about the stories you tried to make us tell. Those treatments were your idea. Stop lying." My voice cracks like a whip. "I have the medical records. I have the emails. I have everything." His reasonable mask slips, revealing something ugly beneath. "You think anyone will believe you? It's your word against mine." "Actually," Lucia says, "it's your word against 6 women's documented evidence. 7, counting Eliza's footage." "And counting," Margaret adds, holding up her phone. "Your ex from Seattle just confirmed she's willing to go on record." August steps forward again, businessmen smile in place. "Perhaps we can reach an arrangement." "The only arrangement," I cut in, "is this. We're publishing everything. Not your twisted version, not your manipulated drama. The real story, about how you find vulnerable women, manipulate them into conflict, then profit from their pain." "You can't," Ray starts. "We already have." Sarah turns her laptop around, showing the post we've just published. "Check your notifications." Both men grab their phones. I watch their faces as they read, as they see the comments already flowing in. Women sharing similar stories, more victims coming forward. Ray's mask cracks completely. He lunges for Sarah's laptop, but Margaret and Lucia step between us. "Don't," Margaret says quietly. "You've already lost." "This will ruin me," Ray snarls. "Like you tried to ruin us?" I step closer, looking into the eyes of the man I once loved. The difference is, we're telling the truth. August backs toward the door. "Ray, we need to—" "You're not going anywhere," Eliza says, just as blue lights flash outside. "The police would like to discuss those financial records we found, the ones showing how you two split the profits from your little schemes." Ray's face goes pale. "Allison, please. We can work this out. We can start over. No, I say softly. We can't. Because I finally see you clearly. And I'm not the only one. The police enter quietly, professionally. As they lead Ray and August out, I watch through the cafe window. The man I married disappears into a patrol car, taking with him the last remnants of the life I thought I had. Sarah touches my arm gently. Are you okay? I look at her, really look at her. At the friend who made terrible choices trying to protect people. At the woman who helped me expose the truth. I will be, I say. We both will. Lucia brings us fresh coffee as we watch the police cars drive away. The night feels cleaner somehow, lighter. On our laptops, the comments keep flowing. More women speaking up. More truth breaking free. What now? Sarah asks quietly. I take a sip of coffee, tasting possibility instead of betrayal. Now we tell our story, the real one, together. The cafe's warmth wraps around us like a shield as we begin to write. Dawn breaks over the cafe as I finish typing the last line of our story. My fingers hover over the keyboard, hesitating before the final period. Around me, empty coffee cups and half-eaten pastries tell the story of our all-night writing session. It's good, Sarah says softly, reading over my shoulder. Really good. It's true, I correct her. That's what makes it powerful. Lucia stirs from where she's been dozing in the corner booth. Did you get to the part about Ray's other wives? My hands freeze. His what? Margaret pulls out her phone, showing me an email that arrived during our writing marathon. 3 of them, all before you, all with similar stories about fertility treatments and gaslighting. The revelation should hurt more than it does. Instead, I feel an odd sense of relief, the last puzzle piece clicking into place. Add it, I tell Sarah. They deserve to be part of this too. As she types, I walk to the cafe window. The morning light paints the street in shades of possibility. Through the glass, I see my reflection. Tired eyes, messy hair, and underneath it all, something new, something stronger. Alison? Eliza appears with fresh coffee. There's someone here to see you. I turn to find a woman standing in the doorway. Middle-aged, elegant, with Ray's same architect glasses. His mother. Patricia, I say, my throat tight. I didn't expect. I read your post, she cuts in, walking toward me. The one about Ray, about everything. She stops, hands clasped tightly together. I need you to know. I believe you. All of you. The cafe goes silent. Even Sarah stops typing. He learned it from his father, Patricia continues. The manipulation, the careful collecting of secrets. I spent 20 years thinking I was crazy before I finally got out. She takes a shaky breath. I should have warned you. Should have said something at the wedding, but I was still too afraid. You're not afraid now, I observe. No. She straightens her shoulders. And neither are you. That's why I'm here, to add my story to yours if you'll have it. I look at Sarah, at Lucia, at Margaret, at the women who helped me find my voice again. Pull up a chair, I tell Patricia. We have some rewriting to do. As Sarah makes room at the laptop, my phone buzzes. A message from Ray's lawyer. My client is willing to offer a generous settlement in exchange for removing the post. I show it to the others. He still thinks this is about money. What are you going to tell him? Lucia asks. I look at the message, then at the story on the screen, at the growing list of women brave enough to speak their truth. Nothing, I decide. Our words are not for sale. The sun climbs higher as we work, adding Patricia's story to our collective voice. Customers begin trickling in, giving us curious looks. Some recognize me from the viral post. One woman stops at our table. Thank you, she says simply, for helping me understand I'm not alone. By mid-morning, our story is complete. Not just mine and Sarah's now, but a chorus of voices rising together. As I read through it one last time, I realize something. The woman who started this journey looking for revenge is gone. In her place is someone stronger, Someone who understands that the best revenge isn't destruction, it's illumination. Ready to publish the update? Sarah asks, finger hovering over the button. I look around at my unlikely allies. At Patricia, sharing quiet tears with Margaret. At Lucia, fierce and protective as ever. At Eliza, who kept her evidence until the right moment. At Sarah, who chose truth over fear. Wait, I say, adding one final line to our story. To every woman who's been told she's crazy, who's been made to doubt her own reality, your truth matters, and you are not alone. Now it's perfect, Sarah whispers. I press publish, feeling the weight of secrets lifting. Outside, the morning sun turns the cafe window into a mirror. I catch my reflection again, but this time I see more than just myself. I see all of us, survivors, truth-tellers, sisters in an unexpected battle. The bell above the door chimes as another woman enters, clutching her phone, eyes searching, looking for her tribe. I stand to welcome her, understanding finally that this was never about destroying Ray. It was about building something stronger than his lies. It was about finding our voice, together.
How could you do this to me? The words tumbled from my lips in a strangled whisper as my world crumbled around me. It was supposed to be the happiest night of my life, my engagement party to Elliot, the man I had loved for years. Our families and friends had gathered to celebrate our future together. But in a dimly lit hallway, just steps away from the joyous festivities, I overheard a heated exchange that shattered every dream we'd built. You need to end this. I can't keep lying to Cadence, Elliot hissed in a hushed tone. My heart seized as a too familiar voice responded. Come on, Elliot. You know how much I need you. She'll never have to find out. Wren, my own sister. The one person I should have been able to trust implicitly. Her words sliced through me like shards of betrayed disbelief. Unable to remain silent a moment longer, I pushed open the door and confronted the two people I loved most in this world, having the most clandestine of conversations. As their startled gazes fell upon me, the reality of their affair hung thick in the air. Cadence, I can explain, Wren began, her eyes already welling with crocodile tears. But I silenced her with a raised hand, unable to bear her lies a moment longer. Save your hollow apologies. I turned to face Elliot, the man I had planned to spend my life with. How long? I asked, my voice trembling with scarcely restrained anguish. To his credit, he didn't prevaricate. 8 months. 8 months, while I had been meticulously planning our future, booking venues, trying on dresses. My dream wedding had become a sham even before it began. White-hot fury lanced through me, forcibly grounding me in that agonizing moment as I struggled not to crumple beneath the weight of such deceit. The engagement is off, I declared in a tone that brooked no argument. Both of you, get out of my sight. For once, Wren was mercifully silent as she swept past me, her eyes downcast. Elliot made as if to speak, but I shook my head sharply. Don't, I warned him. Then they were gone, leaving me alone to process the sudden, brutal implosion of my life as I had known it. How could Wren, my closest confidant since childhood, have done this to me? And Elliot, he was supposed to cherish me above all others. The niggling sense of doubt and mistrust began worming its way through the cracks in my heart as I contemplated all the seemingly innocuous moments between them that may have hinted at this catastrophic betrayal. My mind rebelled against its own frantic analysis, leaving me emotionally unmoored in a sea of recrimination. Distantly, I became aware of the music and laughter from the next room, a mocking contrast to the tattered remnants of my life. I couldn't face my friends, my family, not like this. Squaring my shoulders, I spun on my heel and hastened in the opposite direction, away from the dream I had harbored and the brutal reality that was my new normal. As I slipped out a side door into the darkness of the night, the first fat drops of rain began to fall as if in mocking commiseration of my plight. My engagement, my heart, my very world, all of it shattered by those I loved and trusted most. But beneath the all-consuming ache of betrayal, an ember of rage flickered to life, vowing that one day, somehow, I would have my vengeance. I should have seen it coming, really. The signs were there all along, if I'm being honest with myself, which is something I haven't really allowed until now. Growing up, Wren was always the favored child, beautiful, vivacious, the embodiment of everything my mother Lorelei had dreamed of in a daughter. I, on the other hand, was the awkward bystander constantly laboring for their approval and affection. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" my mother would lament, oblivious to the cutting words. Or perhaps she understood their sting all too well. While Wren commanded the admiring gaze of every room she entered, I faded into the background unnoticed, a perpetual wallflower overshadowed by her dazzling radiance. Over time, envy and resentment took root within me, toxic seeds that would only fester as the years passed. Father was no help, maintaining a cordial but distant demeanor with both of us. I often wonder if he sensed the growing rivalry between Wren and I and simply chose to avoid adding fuel to that fire. His hands-off approach likely did more damage than he realized. The one solace I found was in my friendship with Marcus Bishop, who lived just down the street. Warm and kind-hearted, he treated me with a simple decency that was so achingly absent at home. While his affections likely extended beyond mere friendship, I was too consumed by my insecurities and need for familial acceptance to truly appreciate what was right in front of me. It was during high school that the dynamic between Wren and I took its most toxic turn. As her beauty and confidence bloomed, boyfriends and suitors flocked to bask in her radiant presence. But it never lasted, a fact I didn't fully comprehend until years later. She seduced my boyfriend right out from under me, Casey Harrington accused with righteous indignation after one of Wren's romantic conquests. I should have known she was just using me to get closer to him. At the time, I dismissed it as petty sour grapes from a jealous ex-friend. But the frequency of those accusations lodged in my subconscious like a persistent splinter I couldn't dislodge. It wasn't until college that I started noticing more suspicious signs of Wren's deceitful nature. Once, she befriended Amanda Lewis, only to steal her idea for a social media marketing app and present the concept to potential investors as her own. Amanda was too distraught and intimidated by our family's wealth to fight the intellectual property theft. When I finally worked up the nerve to confront Wren about her underhanded treatment of Amanda, she simply rolled her eyes. "Don't be so naive, Katie. I'm an opportunist, not a criminal. You'd do well to start looking out for number one, too, instead of being so boringly ethical." Her callous disregard for Amanda's plundered dreams disturbed me, as did the realization that perhaps my parents' indulgent favoritism had warped Wren into developing such sociopathic tendencies. For the first time, I began distancing myself from the family perpetually enamored with her charms. But still, the insidious self-doubt prevented me from recognizing the full extent of Wren's toxicity, until one fateful night shattered my naivety once and for all. That betrayal reconfirmed every past suspicion, every inkling that something was deeply rotten within my sister's core. But this time, the treachery cut too deeply to ignore any longer. As hurt and unmoored as I felt in the wake of Elliot and Wren's revealed affair, the fury coursing through me eclipsed it all. That deceptive snake had taken the one thing that meant everything to me, my chance at happiness. And for that she would pay dearly. No more willfully ignoring the signs, brushing off accusations, or deluding myself into familial dysfunction. Wren's days of exploiting my trusting nature were over. This time, I would be the one to claim the ultimate victory. The click of Wren's heels faded as she swept out of my apartment, leaving me alone to process the cataclysmic implosion of my life. I sank onto the couch, numb disbelief slowly giving way to a roiling amalgam of emotions: fury, anguish, determination. I had ended my engagement to Elliot and severed ties with Wren in one cataclysmic confrontation. But now the dust had settled. The magnitude of their betrayal began crystallizing into an inescapable truth. They had to pay. My thoughts were interrupted by a tentative rapping at the door. I tensed, half expecting it to be Elliot or Wren attempting further pathetic appeals. But the familiar voices drifting through made me exhale heavily. "Cadence? It's Mom and Dad. Can we come in?" Of course they would have heard the fallout by now. Steeling myself, I crossed the room and cracked open the door, revealing my parents' concerned visages. Mom immediately pulled me into an awkward embrace as Dad hovered nearby, his usual stoicism in place. "We just heard the most terrible rumors," Mom fretted as she released me. "About you, Ellie, and..." She trailed off, unable to give voice to the reality. "It's true," I stated flatly. "I caught them together. The engagement is off." Mom's eyes widened in dismay, but Dad simply nodded as if he had been expecting such news all along. "I suspected as much," he murmured. "The writing has been on the wall with Ren for years." His tacit acknowledgement of her deceitful nature was both validating and enraging. If he recognized those tendencies, why had he never addressed them? Why had I been left floundering and doubting my own instincts while she spun her web of lies and manipulations? Mom, meanwhile, looked utterly gobsmacked. "Ren? And Elliot?" She clutched Dad's arm for support. "But she's your sister, and Elliot was going to be family." I laughed bitterly at her apparent naivete. Hadn't she been present for all the red flags, all the shady incidents that presaged this very betrayal? How could she still be so blind to the truth about her cherished youngest daughter? "Mom, wake up," I said, none too gently. "This has been a long time coming. Ren has been lying and using people for years. I was just too infatuated with her charms and your obvious favoritism to see it for what it was." The words lashed out harsher than intended, but I didn't regret their sting. My parents flinched as if I had struck them physically. "Cadence, that's not fair." Dad rumbled in a low tone. "You're letting your anger over this unpleasantness cloud your judgment. We've never favored one child over the other." I barked out a mirthless laugh. "No? Then where was this paternal concern when I was constantly being berated and compared unfavorably to Ren growing up? Where was your support when she stole ideas and boyfriends from friends with impunity?" Mom at least had the decency to appear abashed. Dad simply leveled his inscrutable gaze at me, utterly unmoved. "You're overreacting," he pronounced at last. "What's done is done. For the family's sake, you need to let this go and try to repair things with your sister." The audacity of his words struck me into momentary, dumbstruck silence. Let it go? After the devastation they had wrought? Unbelievable. "Get out," I bit out, fighting to control the tremor of rage in my voice. "Both of you, just get out of my sight." "Cadence, please," Mom began, but Dad gripped her elbow firmly. "You heard your daughter," he stated impassively. "We'll go. But mark my words, this grudge will only lead you down a path of misery and bitterness. For your own sake, I hope you'll see reason before it consumes you entirely." With that parting admonition, he ushered Mom out and closed the door behind them with a dull thunk. I stared at the portal for several moments, letting the finality of Dad's words hang heavy in the air. But rather than cowing me into resignation, they fortified my resolve. If my own parents were too entrenched in denial to support me against Ren's machinations, then I would have to pursue justice alone. The rage that had been steadily building now took on a fevered intensity. Forget repairing bonds. This time, I would shatter them asunder first. Once and for all, Ren would feel the scorching consequences of her selfish, duplicitous actions. Fueled by a righteous fury, I began meticulously plotting my next steps. Evidence had to be compiled, allies recruited to my cause. No stone could be left unturned in exposing the truth and dismantling the pedestal my family insisted on keeping Ren upon, no matter how much collateral damage occurred. She had declared war upon my future the moment she set her sights on Elliot. And in war, I fully intended to annihilate her. In the days following my parents' ill-fated intervention, a cold determination took root within me. If they weren't going to hold Ren accountable, then I would pursue justice myself, no matter how merciless it appeared. My first steps were basic but necessary reconnaissance. I began discreetly reaching out to Ren's former friends and romantic associates, carefully piecing together a timeline of her selfish manipulations and lies. The stories came pouring in like a ruptured dam once those burned bridges realized I was earnestly interested in exposing her misdeeds. Amanda Lewis, the entrepreneur whose marketing app idea had been stolen. Jessica Kim, whose boyfriend Ren had not so subtly seduced away. A parade of scorned exes and discarded confidantes lining up to deliver scathing testimonies. I documented every sordid account, every underhanded betrayal in a meticulous trail of evidence that would fuel the looming confrontation. But I knew more ammunition was still required to impact my family's entrenched adoration for Ren. Which is how I found myself at Marcus Bishop's doorstep one rain-swept evening, my old childhood friend and oft unrequited love startled to receive me. "Cadence? What's going on?" he asked, brow creasing with concern as he took in my taut expression. "You look intense. Can I come in?" I brushed past him without preamble. "I need your help with something." Confusion flickered over his features, but Marcus acquiesced as he always did where I was involved. Inside his modest home, I wasted no time laying out the crux of the mission. "I'm going to take Wren down," I declared bluntly, "and I need an ally who has no qualms about getting their hands dirty." His jaw went slack as I detailed the evidence I'd gathered thus far of Wren's myriad wrongdoings over the years, up to and including her role in sabotaging my engagement to Elliot. By the time I finished, Marcus's expression had hardened into one of grim resolve. "You know you can count on me," he said, all traces of the jovial boy I'd known now supplanted by an intensity that matched my own. "After what your family put us through in high school, it'll be my pleasure to help dismantle the facade." I arched an eyebrow, recalling the hurtful memories he alluded to. While I had been too consumed by my impossible quest for Wren's approval, Marcus had borne the brunt of her disdain and cruelty simply for daring to be attracted to me. The fact that he still harbored a willingness to be in my corner spoke volumes. "Thank you," I said with simple sincerity. "With you on board, this is really happening." The first embers of what would become an unstoppable conflagration. Over the following days and weeks, Marcus and I built an impregnable dossier that left no treacherous stone of Wren's life upturned. Financial records illuminating her business indiscretions, a staggering body count of ruined friendships and romantic deceit, even a trail of online harassment targeting those who had initially scorned her. All of it was rigorously compiled as a case to be presented before the jury of our family's judgment. Throughout this process, I deflected every overture from Wren with icy silence, refusing to engage with her feeble pleas for reconciliation and forgiveness. I knew such hollow entreaties were simply preamble to further manipulation on her part. That pathology ran too deep to be undone by mere words. Only the devastating truth, once and for all laid bare before our relatives, had any hope of breaking her spell and toppling her unearned pedestal. Meanwhile, the dividing lines within the family grew increasingly defined. Mom persisted in her refusal to take sides, steadfastly avoiding the issue in a desperate bid to preserve the illusion of civility. Dad's pragmatic pragmatism aligned him more with me, though he refrained from outright condemning Wren's actions. And then there were the neutral observers reserving judgment until all was revealed at the looming reckoning I had meticulously planned, our annual family reunion, which promised to be more reality-shatteringly combustible than any beforehand. As the date grew nearer, I could feel the stakes, the intractable tensions ratcheting to an inexorable breaking point. Marcus and I had gathered the damning truth about Wren. Now came the moment of detonating that truth before a captive audience, once and for all, casting her into the scorching illumination she had diligently avoided for far too long. No more shadows to slither within, no more deceit or treachery to conceal. This would be the flames that forged the aftermath of a new reality, by whatever means were necessary. As the annual Monroe family reunion loomed, the chasm between myself and Wren calcified into an impassable rift. Every attempt at reconciliation on her part was met with stony silence and refusal to engage. My single-minded focus remained on fortifying the case against her, to protect myself from any hint of relenting in the face of her master manipulation tactics. Marcus, meanwhile, proved to be an invaluable ally in ensuring my resolve never wavered. "You're doing the right thing, Cadence," he stated with a firm nod one evening as we reviewed the mounting evidence file. "Wren's deception has to be exposed, no matter how much it disrupts the family." I felt something inside me settle at his pragmatic words, shoring up my convictions. "Do you really think if we lay out all the facts before everyone, they'll finally see her for what she is?" A pensive look passed over Marcus's features. "I'd like to hope so. But you have to be prepared for the probability that some will remain willfully blind to the truth." My jaw clenched at the thought. After all the undeniable proof we had compiled, testimony after testimony from Wren's litany of victims, how could anyone not be swayed from their entrenched positions? Unless, "You think Mom and Dad knew, don't you?" I accused, the horrible notion coalescing into grim reality. about the level of Rin's depravity. That's why they urged me to just forgive and move past her affair with Elliot. Marcus exhaled heavily. I don't know for sure, but the signs were there, and we both know your parents favor her to an unhealthy degree. I wouldn't put it past them to ignore or excuse her indiscretions to maintain appearances. White-hot fury lanced through me at the thought of such outrageous dereliction on their part. But then, Dad had basically admitted as much in our last confrontation, callously demanding I repair things with Ren for the family's sake. If that's the case, they're just as culpable as she is, and they'll be held accountable too. The hard glint that entered Marcus's eyes confirmed his alignment with me on this path of reckoning. No one would be exempt from having their role in enabling Ren's depredations laid bare. In the meantime, other members of the extended family began fragmenting into factions, those siding with Ren's professed innocence, and those reserving judgment until they saw the proof for themselves. Rumor and gossip percolated unchecked through the grapevine as the reunion date drew nearer. It came as little surprise when Aunt Margot, Ren's most ardent supporter, cornered me while I was inspecting the reunion venue. This ridiculous vendetta has gone on long enough, she snapped without preamble, eyes flashing with indignation. I regarded her coolly, long inured to her relentless preferential treatment of Ren. I have evidence, Aunt Margot. Too much to ignore, even for you. She made a disdainful noise, adjusting her gaudy fur stole. Evidence? Of what? That poor, innocent Ren may have made some minor indiscretions in her youth? She's a grown woman now, and any issues between you two should have been laid to rest ages ago. Revulsion twisted my gut at her blasé dismissal. Evidence be damned, Ren's legions of apologists would never be dissuaded by facts. I opened my mouth to retort, but Margot barreled onward. Mark my words, if you insist on airing out this meaningless grudge at the reunion, it's your standing with the family that will suffer most dearly. Think on that before throwing more absurd allegations at your sister. With that parting threat hanging in the air, she spun on one alligator-skinned heel and flounced away before I could respond. I was left fuming in the midst of the very venue where the battle lines would soon be brutally and uncompromisingly drawn. Margot's sneering disregard strengthened my resolve more than any pleas for capitulation could have eroded it. If Ren's supporters were that entrenched in denial and blind devotion, then nothing short of bloody warfare would suffice to shatter their foolish idolatry. When next the extended clan assembled, the reckoning would be inescapable. I now understood that upheaval was inevitable in order to excise the cancer of Ren's sociopathic influence once and for all. So be it then. Whatever the permanent fractures and severed bonds, the scales would finally be balanced, no matter how much upheaval was required. There could be no half measures, no compromise when absolute justice was the only acceptable outcome. As I strode out of the venue with purposed strides, I felt the sudden exhilarating clarity of a woman locking onto her crusade's trajectory and seeing it through regardless of consequence or collateral damage. For too long, Ren had sown ruination without repercussion. Now, at long last, she would reap the whirlwind of merciless retribution. The annual Monroe family reunion was always an ostentatious affair, owing to my parents' predilection for shameless displays of wealth and status. This year's no-expense-spared Venetian masquerade ball theme only amplified the pretentious grandeur, but beneath the glamorous marble floors and glittering chandeliers, an electric current of tension thrummed through the assembled masses, rife with unspoken expectation. Perhaps it emanated from my own coiled determination as I watched the revelers circulate with studied nonchalance. I caught a familiar flash of auburn in the crowd and felt my gut tighten reflexively. Ren, resplendent in a cream-colored gown with an intricately beaded mask, accepted adoring compliments from a knot of family members with her trademark, beguiling smile. It was sickening to behold her deceptions being so blindly celebrated. But that was all about to change. A steadying hand came to rest on my elbow, and I glanced over to meet Marcus's resolute gaze through his own black silk mask. A silent affirmation that he had my back, no matter the chaos that was about to unfurl. I gave a tight nod, then turned and weaved through the gathered throngs until I reached the raised platform at the head of the ballroom. Retrieving a weighty manila envelope from my clutch, I rapped my knuckles decisively against the microphone to summon the room's attention. The festive din evaporated, all eyes swiveling to fasten upon me in bewildered curiosity. Even Wren's impeccably masked expression dimmed with trepidation. Good. Let the first seed of doubt take root. Good evening, everyone, I began in a tone that brokered no warmth. And thank you for being here to commemorate another year of the Monroe family legacy. I let the seemingly innocuous statement linger for a beat before delivering the detonation. A legacy, I'm afraid, that has been irrevocably tarnished by one individual's chronic deceit and depravity. For too long, that person has been permitted to indulge her poisonous impulses, while the rest of us have averted our eyes or made excuses. A susurrus of bewildered muttering rippled through the crowd. In my periphery, I could see Mom and Dad shooting me alarmed looks, while Aunt Margot's face turned an obstructed plum hue. Only Marcus remained impassive, silently urging me onward from beside the stage. No more, I declared into the microphone, relishing the undercurrent of sharpening tension. Tonight, the truth will be laid bare for us all to confront, because if we don't purge this toxic influence from our family, it will only fester and rot us from within. With a sharp gesture, I ripped open the manila envelope and upended its contents in a cascading deluge of documentation across the stage. Photographs, financial statements, reams of written testimony detailing every sordid misdeed spilled out in a damning, tangled heap at my feet. The impact was palpable, a collective inhalation of breath from the assembled as they beheld the staggering body of evidence. The muttering swelled in disbelieving volatility. You see this? I stabbed a manicured fingertip towards the incriminating morass. Proof of deception, betrayal, even criminal actions, all at the hands of one person, brazenly indulging their appetite for ruining the lives of others. My gaze bored into Wren's now as her mask of composure began slipping, the first glimmer of icy panic seeping through. Flicking my wrist, I produced a sheaf of papers with a thick report binding, holding it aloft for all to see. This comprehensive case study documents years of misdeeds, going all the way back to high school with the calculated sabotage of friendships and romantic relationships. With contemptuous fury, I lobbed the report like a thrown gauntlet to bounce and skid across the floor directly before Wren. Every wronged friend or former lover whose life you played with like personal Jenga tiles. Every kind-hearted dupe like Amanda Lewis, whose innovative business concept you stole out from under her without a shred of remorse. It's all delineated here in both their words and undeniable documentation. I paused to sweep my hardened stare over the veritable sea of slack-jawed expressions, willfully oblivious allegiances now being ripped asunder by the inexorable truth. You didn't think anyone was watching, did you, Wren? I sneered into the ringing silence. That your carefully crafted mask of charm and feminine wiles would let you slither through life unscathed, no matter who you bulldozed in your path. Compulsively, I started pacing in a predatory arc around the horrified statue of my sister, driving the point home with merciless precision. Well, your pathology ends here. Since Dad urged me to put this messy affair behind me for the family's sake, I've decided to heed his advice by purging the cancer that is your toxic existence from our family once and for all. The blow finally landed, a visible flinch from Dad's stricken expression as regret and self-recrimination clouded his features. But there would be no more enabling, no matter how deep the denial ran. As if surfacing from a daze, Wren jolted back to defensive posturing, chin uplifted in a transparent attempt to retain her shaken mask of superiority. You're deranged if you think anyone will give credence to this ridiculo. You had an affair with my fiancé, Elliot. I didn't let her venom-laced dismissal gain traction, swiftly landing the most visceral gut punch in full view of everyone. A strangled gasp from Mom pierced the heavy silence before I pressed on relentlessly. For 8 months, you were oiling the depths of your deceptions by sleeping with my fiancé while lying to my face every single day. So don't even try playing the wounded innocent in the face of overwhelming evidence. Your reign of treachery is over, dear sister. Wren's mouth moved in a stunned rictus, but I had already turned away to face the ballroom once more, garnet eyes blazing with righteous justification. Now it falls upon this family to determine the next steps. whether we countenance and enable such poisonous impulses in our midst any longer, or if we avail ourselves of this truth, confront it head-on, and rebuild from the ashes stronger than before. But mark my words. I skewered Wren with a contemptuous glare, every fiber brimming with conviction. I will never stop until you face the consequences of your abhorrent actions. No matter what it costs me, this ends tonight. There it was, the gauntlet thrown, the die irrevocably cast. As murmurs of shock and recrimination swelled to fevered pitch, I stepped back to allow the maelstrom to gain unstoppable momentum. The reckoning had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. The ballroom erupted into pandemonium the moment the final damning words left my lips. A cacophony of shouts, gasps, and furious denials ricocheted through the assembled masses as the staggering truth sliced through years of willful delusion. Wren, for all her guile and predatory instincts, seemed to have been robbed of the power of speech. She stood there amidst the chaos, rooted to the spot and ashen-faced, as the carefully cultivated facade began cracking beyond repair. Lies! Aunt Margot's strident screech pierced through the din as the woman I had once pitied for her obsequious devotion to Wren flew into a virulent rage. This is nothing but deranged, spiteful lies born of jealousy. She pitched forward, clawing hands outstretched, as if to snatch up and rend apart the damning evidence strewn at my feet. Before she could take more than 2 steps, Marcus materialized from the shadows and caught Margot's flailing wrists in a restraining grip. "Don't do anything rash you'll regret," he warned her in a low tone thick with menace. Margot's eyes bulged in outrage and disbelief until she recognized her would-be assailant. Then her expression congealed into one of utter loathing as realization set in. "The poor boy finally became Cadence's lapdog, I see," she spat with vile insinuation. "Did she promise to let you sample a taste if you helped her with this insane crusade?" A muscle ticked in Marcus's jaw, but he released Margot with a look of pure disgust before rejoining my side, steadfast and resolute. I felt fortified by his presence, squaring my shoulders to face the mounting pandemonium. "Listen to yourselves," I shouted over the escalating tumult. This desperate need to attack the messenger, rather than confront the grievous truth staring you all in the face. Wren is a master manipulator who will say anything, do anything to preserve the facade you've all embraced like gullible fools. That succeeded in redirecting the outrage towards its proper target. Wren visibly startled as a acidic murmur of condemnation rippled outwards, causing bystanders to recoil from her as if burned. "It can't be true," Mom whispered brokenly, tears spilling down her ravaged face as she clutched Dad's arm in desperation. "My baby girl could never." I actually felt a fleeting pang of empathy as I beheld Mom's world shattering under the relentless weight of proof. But it was far too late for sympathy to sway me. Whatever trauma she and Dad were enduring now, they had brought upon themselves with their indulgence of Wren's toxicity over the years. "Wake up and smell the truth, Mother," I stated with a tinge of weary impatience. "Your proud daughter is a sociopath who has wreaked havoc on everyone around her for her own selfish gratification." A strangled sound escaped Wren then, causing all eyes to rivet upon her. For the first time, the malicious glint I had always subconsciously recoiled from blazed hot and unrestrained in her gaze. All artifice, all attempts at dissembling had been abandoned. "You ungrateful," she hissed with naked hatred. "After all I sacrificed to make something of myself, to pull myself up and out of Mom and Dad's miserable shadow? You're just jealous that I surpassed you by sheer willpower." "Sacrificed?" I echoed with bitter mockery. "Tell that to the legions of loved ones you sacrificed in your warpath of using and discarding lives for your own vainglorious desires." That struck a nerve, a visible wince passing over Wren's features as if rebuked. But the moment's self-awareness was fleeting, as she quickly regained her malignant contempt. "You want to tear down my world out of petty grievances?" Her voice rang out in silken menace. "I played by the rules society dictated and reaped the rewards. Don't come crying to me just because you lacked the fortitude to do the same, dear sister." A roll of revulsion twisted through me at her blatant rationalization, her utter refusal to accept wrongdoing even when confronted so baldly. This was why the extreme measures had been necessary. Wren's sociopathic conviction was too deeply entrenched for redemption. Before I could formulate a retort, a commanding baritone cut through the tension like a scythe. Enough of this. All eyes swiveled as Dad stepped forward, his expression chillingly impassive, save for a glacial glint of finality. You've shown your true colors for all to see, Wren. Outlined a life's litany of treachery and callous betrayals against friends, associates, even your own family. The devastated look he flashed towards Mom broke through the stony facade for just an instant as visible anguish. Tonight, we face some harsh truths about the person you've become. But my decision regarding retribution is clear. He drew a steadying breath, seeming to draw an air of grim majesty about himself as if preparing to pronounce judgment upon the transgressions before him. From this moment, you are exiled from this family, severed from the Monroe legacy, our bloodline, everything. For your misdeeds and refusal to accept responsibility or remorse, you are disowned in perpetuity. A dismayed cry from Wren rent the expectant hush as the words reverberated with incontrovertible finality. I could only stare, momentarily awash in shock that Dad had delivered such a devastating pronouncement. Not just cut off financially, societally shunned and scorned, but disowned in the most elemental sense. Rendered a non-entity in terms of lineage and ties to our clan forevermore. It was a punishment as extreme as the litany of sins we had brought to light. One Wren seemed to belatedly understand the gravity of. No. The anguished moan emerged piteous and small, a far cry from the imperious sociopath who had attempted to gaslight us with rationalizations mere moments ago. Father, please, I'm still your daughter? But Dad's features were already hardening once more, all hint of inner turmoil calcifying to iron resolution. No daughter of mine could inflict such profound betrayals with no compunction. The very DNA you inherited from the Monroe bloodline has been rendered null and void this night. He turned away then, wrapping a protective arm around Mom's shuddering shoulders, as outrage and accusations began swirling anew amidst the assemblage. From the corner of my eye, I could see Aunt Margot gesturing furiously at anyone who would listen, no doubt attempting to undermine and subvert Dad's decree. But even she had been utterly steamrolled beneath the possession of bitter truth and culpability finally laid bare. My gaze was inexorably drawn back to Wren, crumpled on the floor now, like some pathetic, discarded marionette shorn of its strings. Her expression was one of naked anguish, a haunted realization that the ignominy of excommunication from everything she cherished had irrevocably taken root. She met my stare head-on, desperation writ large in her eyes, not for forgiveness or absolution, but to silently beg me to deliver a stay of execution against the sentence handed down. I simply regarded her impassively, and offering no solace or mitigation against the inferno of reckoning she had brought crashing down upon herself. There was only a vacant, hollow pity for the shattered megalith, realizing too late that true consequence had finally arrived to dismantle her pedestal of depravity. This was the moment I had sacrificed and bled to achieve, the undeniable silencing of Wren's pernicious influence at long last. Not through placation or insincere pleas for change, but the laying of a scorched earth in the searing aftermath of her flames. In the days and weeks following Wren's cataclysmic downfall at the family reunion, an uneasy detente settled over the Monroe clan. The shockwaves from my shattering revelations and Dad's subsequent disownment decree had rent us asunder, but not irrevocably so. At least, not for those willing to stare unflinchingly into the truths that had been dragged into the harsh light of reality. A sort of grim solidarity emerged from the ranks who had borne witness to Wren's unmasking that fateful night. Those who recognized the justness in finally severing her toxic influences from our midst, no matter how excruciating the personal costs. And there were indeed heavy personal costs to absorb for many. Mom, God bless her, had retreated into a shell of haggard disbelief in those first few weeks. Between losing a daughter she loved despite her misdeeds and culpability for enabling those misdeeds, I couldn't fathom the depths of her turmoil. Dad, conversely, seemed almost galvanized by the brutal reckoning he had helped mete out, as if cauterizing the malignant limb had been a purgative act, allowing him to stride forth renewed from the ashes of dysfunction. Our family's integrity has been preserved, he told me stoically during a rare moment of bonding between us. Painful as the means were, The path ahead is now unobstructed from corrosive influences. I remember searching his craggy features' uncertainty in those instants, looking for any hint of lingering inner conflict or doubt over the irrevocable verdict he had handed down upon his own progeny. But there was only the same patented composure and resolution that had always defined James Monroe. How he could rationalize his decision with such stark pragmatism, I may never fully comprehend. But then, our entire dynamic had been forever reshaped now in the searing conflagration that was Wren's self-immolation. The shockwaves extended outward, too, with various relatives fracturing off into splintered factions almost overnight. Some, like Aunt Margot, vehemently castigating Dad's ruling while rushing to stand in solidarity with the exiled Wren. Others distancing themselves from the inferno of inner turmoil entirely. And still others, well, Marcus and I gained some unlikely new voices championing our tenacious pursuit of justice, no matter how devastating the costs. It was yet another example of boundaries being redrawn, of the tectonic family plates shifting forever in the aftershocks. But I felt a sense of lightness, too, the first freedom from Wren's overhanging shadow I could remember feeling. That poisonous umbra had been eradicated at long last, allowing the first rays of redemption to break through. Marcus was with me every step as I trod those first tentative steps into reclaiming my life's trajectory. From ensuring Elliot faced the full legal and professional ramifications for his betrayal to determinedly rebuilding the tarnished dynamics with Mom and Dad. "You were the catalyst for renewal, Cadence," Marcus reminded me with a steadying hand on my arm whenever my regrets or doubts threatened to eclipse the path ahead. "Don't let the momentary growing pains overshadow the healthier family you've fought to reclaim." Those words anchored me more times than I could count through the arduous slog of confronting wounds, lancing toxicity, and enduring the fallout of realigned bonds, until, finally, the dust began settling on the smoldering aftermath. There was so much wreckage to confront in that ashen landscape, both within the family and surrounding it from Wren and Elliot's devastation trail. But I surveyed the damaged sites now as a master craftsman might, already plotting out the blueprint for reconstruction from the strongest of building blocks. That was the paradoxical gift of Wren's excision from my life, you see. In dismantling her poisonous tentacles, I had cleared the detritus of dysfunction to reveal the bedrock truth that I was the architect of my own identity. No more falling into lockstep behind a sociopathic sibling's delirious wake just to chase hollow approval, or reflexively adhering to toxic family patterns from childhood. I was free to build upon my own terms, the raw materials being the redemptive bonds with those walking beside me. My eyes would inevitably be drawn to Marcus during those pivotal, transcendent moments, the steadfast best friend who had championed me even when I could not see my own worth, who now stood by my side with a renewed glint in his eyes, silently willing me into this next rebirthed phase of life. There was warmth, affection, and perhaps even a tantalizing frisson of new possibilities shimmering between us each time our gazes met and held in those cathartic moments. A sense that the raising of my former existence had not been for naught, but had instead cleared the path for something brilliant and imminently worth fighting for. When at last I felt the final vestiges of Wren's shadow lifted forever from my soul, it was Marcus's steady hand entwined in mine, twin pillars striding forth into the light together as new lives took radiant shape.
I should have known better than to fall asleep at my mother-in-law's house. That moment of weakness, that single stupid nap, cost me everything. The afternoon had been deceptively peaceful. Sunlight streamed through Cora's pretentious lace curtains, warming the overstuffed armchair I'd curled up in after lunch. My wedding ring caught the light as I drifted off, the sapphire gleaming like a promise. When I woke up, the ring was gone. "Oh, Wendy dear, are you sure you were wearing it?" Cora's voice dripped with false concern as I tore through cushions and crawled under furniture. "You know how scatterbrained you can be." My hands shook as I checked my pockets for the fourth time. The ring had been snug on my finger when I dozed off. I always twisted it when I was nervous, and God knows being around Cora made me nervous enough. 3 years of marriage to her precious Marcus, and she still treated me like an intruder. "I had it on, Cora. I know I did." My voice cracked. The ring wasn't just any piece of jewelry. It was Marcus's grandmother's sapphire, reset into a delicate platinum band. The one family heirloom Cora had grudgingly allowed him to give me. She clicked her tongue, straightening a crystal vase with mathematical precision. Well, these old houses do have a way of swallowing things. Perhaps it's the curse. What curse? Oh, didn't Marcus tell you? Her smile was razor-thin. His grandmother always said that ring brings misfortune to anyone who isn't truly meant to be part of this family. The room suddenly felt airless. I watched her arrange flowers with those perfectly manicured hands, the same hands that had probably slipped the ring off my finger while I slept. But I couldn't prove it. Just like I couldn't prove she'd accidentally destroyed my wedding photos, or misplaced the pearl earrings Marcus gave me for our first anniversary. I need to call Marcus, I mumbled, fumbling for my phone. Of course, dear, though he's in that important client meeting until 6. Cora's voice followed me into the hallway. I'm sure he'll be just devastated. That ring meant so much to our family. Our family, not my family, never my family, according to Cora. Marcus answered on the 4th ring, his voice distracted. Hey babe, everything okay? The ring is gone. The words came out in a rush. I was at your mum's and I fell asleep for maybe 20 minutes and... Slow down, he cut in. What do you mean, gone? Someone took it while I was sleeping. Your mother. Wendy. His sigh felt like a slap. Mom would never do that. You probably just misplaced it. We'll look for it when I get home, okay? But Marcus, I've got to go. We're about to present. Try not to upset Mom over this, all right? You know how sensitive she is about family things. The call ended. I stood in Cora's perfect hallway, staring at my bare hand. 3 years of trying to prove myself worthy of her precious son, of swallowing her subtle jabs and helpful suggestions, of watching Marcus choose peace over truth every single time. More tea, dear. Cora appeared with a fresh cup, sympathy and triumph warring in her eyes. Don't worry too much about the ring. After all, she patted my cheek with cold fingers. Some things just aren't meant to be. I took the tea with numb hands, watching steam curl up like question marks. In the polished silver tray beneath the cup, I caught my reflection and something else. Through the doorway behind me, barely visible in the mirror's surface, I saw Cora's hand slip something into the pocket of her cardigan, something that glinted blue in the afternoon light. My heart stopped, then started again with a vengeance. For 3 years, I'd played the dutiful daughter-in-law, desperate for acceptance. I'd let her subtle cruelties slide, kept the peace for Marcus's sake. But watching her pocket my wedding ring, my ring, something inside me snapped. She thought she'd won. She thought I was weak. I lifted the teacup to my lips, tasting nothing but rage. You're right, Cora, I said softly. Some things aren't meant to be, like pretending we're one big happy family anymore. Her eyes narrowed slightly, but I was already turning away, my mind racing. She had no idea what she'd just started, no idea at all. I was done being the good daughter-in-law, done playing by her rules. It was time to make some rules of my own. The jewelry store's bell chimed mockingly as I pushed through the door. 3 days without my ring, and the bare spot on my finger still felt like an accusation. I'd torn Cora's house apart twice more while she was out, searching until my hands shook, but we both knew I wouldn't find it. She'd made sure of that. I need a replacement wedding ring, I told the jeweler, Brad, something that looks exactly like this. I pulled up a photo on my phone. Me and Marcus on our wedding day, the sapphire catching light as we cut the cake. Brad studied the image, his expression oddly intent. Family heirloom, wasn't it? I remember when Marcus brought it in for resizing. You know Marcus? I know the whole family. He glanced at the empty store before lowering his voice, including Cora. Something in his tone made me lean forward. The ring disappeared while I was at her house. Ah, just one syllable but loaded with meaning. Not the first time something's vanished around Cora, is it? My chest tightened. What do you mean? Let's just say you're not the first daughter-in-law to lose something precious. He pulled out a small notepad, scribbling something. If you're interested in the real story, meet me at Carter's Cafe tomorrow at 2. There's someone you should talk to. The bell chimed again. I turned to see Marcus walking in, his smile faltering as he spotted me. Wendy? What are you doing here? I grabbed the note from Brad, shoving it into my pocket. Looking for a replacement ring, since you don't believe your mother took the original. Not this again. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, his tell when he's stressed. Mom's been crying, you know. She can't believe you'd accuse her of theft. Of course she was crying. Cora's tears were weapons, precisely aimed. Did she mention she told me about some family curse? How the ring brings misfortune to people who don't belong? She was probably just telling you the family history. She stole it, Marcus. While I was sleeping, I saw her pocket something shiny right after— Enough! His shout echoed off the glass cases. God, Wendy, why do you have to make everything so difficult? Mom's not perfect, but she's family. Why can't you just try harder to get along? Try harder, like I hadn't spent 3 years shrinking myself to fit into Cora's narrow definition of worthy. Like I was the problem. You know what? You're right. My voice was steel. I should try harder. In fact, I turned to Brad, who'd been very interested in his inventory during our argument. I'd like to order an exact replica. Price is no object. Marcus's face softened with relief. See? That's better. We'll get you a new ring and everything can go back to normal. Normal. The word tasted like poison. I'll email you some options, Brad said, handing me his card. His eyes flicked meaningfully to my pocket, where his note lay hidden. Outside, Marcus touched my arm. I've got to get back to work. Thanks for being reasonable about this, babe. Mom will be so happy you're moving past it. I'm sure she would be. Happy to see me submit again, crawl back into my place like a good little daughter-in-law. Of course, I said, kissing his cheek. Tell your mother not to worry about a thing. I waited until his car disappeared around the corner before pulling out Brad's note. The handwriting was cramped but clear. Uriel's death wasn't an accident. Ask about the insurance policy. And the first Mrs. Marcus Sr. My hands trembled. Uriel, Marcus's father, had died before I met the family. Car accident, Cora had said. Tragic but simple. But nothing about Cora was simple, was it? I pulled out my phone and called the one person who'd tell me the truth. Tori, I need your help. Remember when you said your mom used to work at the insurance company that handled local claims? Any chance she could pull some old files? My best friend's silence spoke volumes. Wendy, what are you getting into? Something big, I said, watching my reflection in a store window. The woman staring back looked different somehow, harder. And I need to know how deep it goes. This isn't just about the ring anymore, is it? No. I touched my bare finger, thinking of Cora's smug smile, Marcus's willful blindness. It's about justice, and I'm going to get it, with or without my husband's help. The truth was out there, buried in old files and forgotten stories. And tomorrow, at 2 o'clock, I was going to start digging. Carter's Cafe smelled like burnt coffee and secrets. I fiddled with the cheap replacement ring I'd bought at the mall, a temporary shield against questions I wasn't ready to answer. The metal felt wrong, hollow, like everything else in my life lately. Brad was late. I checked my phone again, seeing another missed call from Marcus. He'd been hovering since our jewelry store confrontation, trying to smooth things over with forced cheerfulness and surprise takeout dinners, as if Pad Thai could make up for choosing his mother's lies over his wife's truth. Sorry I'm running behind. Brad slid into the booth across from me, followed by an elegant older woman with sharp eyes. This is Patricia. She was Marcus Sr.'s first wife. My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. First wife? Patricia's smile was winter cold. Cora doesn't mention me much, I imagine. Bad for her perfect family narrative. She pulled out a worn envelope. But I've been waiting 25 years for someone to ask the right questions. My hand shook as I opened the envelope. Inside were newspaper clippings, photographs, and what looked like photocopied insurance documents. Uriel's death was ruled an accident, Patricia said, tapping one of the articles. Single car crash on Ridge Road. But look at the insurance payout. The number made my eyes widen. That's enough to save the family business and set Cora up for life. Yes. Patricia's voice was steel wrapped in silk. And coincidentally, 3 months before the crash, Uriel changed his policy, removed me as beneficiary, even though I was still legally his wife, made Cora the sole recipient. But they weren't even married yet, I whispered. They were having an affair. I had proof, was ready to take him for everything in the divorce. Then suddenly, she spread her hands. Tragic accident, case closed, and 6 months later, Cora was the grieving widow running everything. My phone buzzed. Marcus's face lit up the screen, but I couldn't deal with his willful blindness right now. Not with these revelations burning holes in my brain. Why are you showing me this? Because history repeats. Brad leaned forward. That ring you lost, it wasn't just any family heirloom. It was Patricia's original engagement ring, the one thing Cora couldn't legally take from her. And now it's disappeared, just like every other threat to Cora's control. I have to tell Marcus, I said, gathering the documents with trembling fingers. He needs to know. He won't believe you. Patricia's words stopped me cold. I tried telling him years ago. He was only 12 when his father died, and Cora, she's very good at managing narratives, especially with her son. The truth of it hit like a physical blow. Marcus, who couldn't even believe his mother would steal a ring, would never accept this. Then what am I supposed to do? Be smarter than I was. Patricia stood, straightening her immaculate blazer. Cora's having her annual charity gala next week. All the old family friends will be there. People who remember what really happened. People who might talk with the right encouragement. And the right evidence, Brad added meaningfully. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Tori. Found something major in Mom's old files. Call me ASAP. I looked up at Patricia, seeing my own pain reflected in her eyes. Did you ever get justice? No. She touched my cheap replacement ring gently. But maybe you can. For both of us. After they left, I sat staring at my cold coffee, mind racing. The gala was Cora's crown jewel, her yearly proof of perfect family leadership. The guest list would be full of people who knew her secrets, people who might have kept quiet out of fear or loyalty, but who might speak now if given the chance. My phone lit up with a text from Marcus. Mum wants us over for dinner tonight. Please come. She made your favorite pasta. Of course she did. Another performance of perfect mother-in-law concern, probably planning to suggest I was too careless to handle precious family heirlooms. I touched the envelope of evidence, thinking of Patricia's lost years, of all the lives Cora had carefully arranged to suit her narrative. Then I texted back, wouldn't miss it, time to give the performance of my life. Let Cora think she'd won, that I was properly cowed. Let her plan her perfect gala, invite all her carefully managed witnesses. I had a week to turn her showcase into a reckoning. And this time, I wouldn't be playing by her rules. Cora's pasta sauce filled the dining room with a sickly sweet aroma of manufactured perfection. I pushed strands of linguine around my plate, hyper-aware of my mother-in-law's predatory gaze. Not hungry, dear. Her concern could have fooled anyone who hadn't seen her true face. You seem distracted lately. Marcus mentioned you've been making odd appointments, running mysterious errands. My fork froze mid-twirl. I forced a smile, though my pulse hammered. Just busy with work and, dealing with the ring situation. Oh, that, she waved dismissively. I thought we'd moved past that unfortunate accusation. Marcus squeezed my knee under the table, a warning. Play nice. Actually, I said, setting down my fork, I wanted to ask about the gala. I'd love to help with the planning this year. The silence that followed was absolute. Even Chelsea, Marcus's sister, stopped mid-chew to stare at me. Cora recovered first, her smile tightening. How unexpected. You've never shown interest before. I know, but I've been thinking about what you said, about really becoming part of the family. The lies felt like glass in my mouth. I want to do better. Well, Cora dabbed her lips with a monogram napkin. I suppose you could help Chelsea with the place cards. Under supervision, of course. Chelsea brightened. We're working on them tomorrow morning. You should come over. Perfect. Access to the guest list, just like that. Speaking of family involvement, Cora continued, I've been meaning to ask, have you and Marcus discussed children yet? The family name needs carrying on, after all. My carefully constructed mask nearly slipped. Marcus stiffened beside me. Mum, we've talked about this, he said quietly. It's not the right time. It's never the right time with some people. Cora's eyes locked onto mine. Though I suppose it's for the best. Children do need stability. The implication hung in the air like poison gas. I gripped my water glass, remembering Patricia's words about Cora's talent for managing narratives. She was already laying groundwork, painting me as unstable, unfit. If I moved against her now, how would that story spread? I should check on dessert. Cora rose gracefully. Chelsea, help me in the kitchen. The moment they left, Marcus turned to me. Thank you for trying. Mom seems really impressed. I stared at him. This man I loved who couldn't, or wouldn't, see the daggers beneath his mother's smiles. Do you want children, Marcus? What? Where's this coming from? Just answer the question. He ran a hand through his hair. Eventually, yeah. But we agreed to wait. Focus on our careers first. No, I said softly. You agreed. After your mother spent 3 months making comments about my unstable background, my questionable family history. That's not fair. Mom's just protective. Of what? Her control. The words spilled out before I could stop them. Did you know about your father's first wife? His face went blank. Patricia, what does she have to do with anything? Have you ever wondered why she disappeared? Why nobody talks about her? She abandoned us. His voice hardened. Mum told me. Your mother tells you a lot of things. From the kitchen, Cora's laugh rang out like breaking crystal. Marcus's jaw clenched. Don't. His voice was low, warning. Whatever you're thinking, whatever you're planning with all these secret meetings, just don't, please. I looked at my husband, really looked at him, saw the scared 12-year-old boy who'd lost his father and clung to his mother's version of reality like a life raft. How much would it destroy him to learn the truth? Dessert time. Chelsea bounced back in with plates of tiramisu. Wendy, come over early tomorrow. We can get coffee first, make a morning of it. I smiled, feeling Cora's watchful eyes from the doorway. Wouldn't miss it. Later that night, I sat in my home office, staring at Patricia's documents. My phone lit up with a text from Tori. You need to see these insurance records. Things aren't what they seem. Another text followed. Be careful. I think someone's been asking questions about your research. I touched my cheap replacement ring, thinking of Marcus's plea to let things be, of Cora's subtle threats about stability and family legacy. Then I opened my laptop and started typing. Dear Chelsea, looking forward to tomorrow. By the way, could you send me the gala guest list? I have some calligraphy ideas. The truth would hurt Marcus. It would shatter his world. But living this lie was already shattering mine. Chelsea's dining room table disappeared under a sea of cream-coloured place cards. My sister-in-law hummed as she worked, her handwriting perfect and precise, just like everything else Cora had trained into her. I still can't believe you volunteered to help, Chelsea said, passing me another stack of cards. Mum was sure you'd quit after the first hour. I smiled, scanning the names as I arranged them. Judge Morrison, Dr. Phillips, the Harrises, all wealthy, all influential, all potential witnesses to Cora's past. Guess I'm full of surprises. Like that. Chelsea pointed to my replacement ring. You got a new one so quickly. Didn't even make Mom feel bad about the original disappearing. My hand froze. What do you mean? Oh, you know, Mom. Chelsea's voice dropped conspiratorially. She has to test everyone. She did the same thing with my boyfriend last Christmas, misplaced his grandfather's watch during his first overnight stay, found it a week later after he'd proved he could handle family pressure without cracking. The calligraphy pen slipped, bleeding ink across Senator Weber's name. She does this often, only to people she's unsure about. Chelsea frowned at my ruined card. I thought you knew. It's like an initiation thing. She'll give your ring back once you've shown you're committed to the family. That's why I was so impressed you didn't make a huge scene. My carefully constructed plan crumbled like wet paper. This wasn't just about me. How many others had Cora manipulated? How many more would she break? Chelsea, I said carefully, what do you remember about your dad's accident? The humming stopped. Why? Just wondering if you ever thought it was strange. The timing, the insurance. Don't. Her voice sharpened to a point. Mum said you might start asking questions. Said Patricia had poisoned you against the family. Ice slid down my spine. You've talked to Patricia. Mum told me everything this morning. How Patricia's been stalking the family for years, spreading lies. How she's using you to get revenge. Chelsea's eyes filled with tears. I thought you were really trying to be part of the family, but you're just... Chelsea, listen to me. Your mother is protecting us, like always. She stood abruptly, cards scattering. I think you should go. The gala list will be handled by people we can trust. Her voice cracked. I have to tell Mom about this, and Marcus. They need to know you're working with Patricia. No. Chelsea, please. Get out. I drove home in a daze, mind racing. Cora had outmaneuvered me again, poisoning the well before I could even draw water. How many others had she warned? How many stories had she twisted? My phone buzzed. Tori. I pulled over to answer. Where are you? She sounded breathless. You need to get to my office, now. I can't. Everything's falling apart. The insurance records, Wendy. They're not what we thought. Uriel's death wasn't about the money. It was about covering something bigger. Something that ties directly to what's happening now. What do you mean? Just come. And watch your back. Mom says someone accessed her files this morning. Someone with high-level clearance. I ended the call, hands shaking. Through the windshield, I spotted a familiar car parked across the street. The same one I'd seen outside Brad's shop yesterday. My phone lit up with texts. Marcus. Chelsea just called. How could you? Chelsea. Mum's crying. I hope you're happy. Unknown number. Back off now. Final warning. The walls were closing in. Soon Marcus would be home, demanding explanations. Cora would spin her web of lies tighter. And somewhere in Tori's files lay a truth that had people watching my every move. I thought of Chelsea's revelation about the ring test, about all the other lives Cora had casually broken and reformed to suit her needs, about Marcus, trapped in his mother's carefully constructed reality. My replacement ring caught the afternoon light, cheap and hollow, like everything in Cora's world. I turned the key in the ignition. Tori's office was 30 minutes away. Whatever truth waited in those files, it was time to face it. Because Cora hadn't just stolen my ring. She'd stolen years from Patricia, peace from Uriel, independence from her children. And she would keep stealing, keep breaking people, unless someone stopped her. I pulled into traffic, checking my mirrors for the familiar car. Let them follow. Let them report back. I was done playing Cora's game by Cora's rules. Time to change the game entirely. Tori's office building loomed dark against the sunset, most windows already black. My heels clicked through the empty lobby, each echo a reminder that I shouldn't be here after hours. But Tori had insisted. Safer this way, she'd said. Fewer eyes. The elevator dinged at the 4th floor. Through the glass walls of the insurance agency, I saw a single desk lamp burning. Tori hunched over her computer, face ghostly in the screen's glow. Lock the door, she said without looking up. The files are worse than we thought. I turned the deadbolt, then froze. On Tori's desk sat my sapphire ring. Where did you get that? She finally met my eyes. Cora brought it in this morning, said she needed to discuss some old policies. Her voice cracked. I'm so sorry, Wendy. She knows we've been looking into Uriel's death. What? She had proof, photos of me accessing restricted files, recordings of phone calls. Said if I didn't help her, she'd have my mum charged with criminal breach of confidentiality. Mom could lose her license, face jail time. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. So you're working for her now? No, I told her I would, but that's why I called you here. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. We have maybe an hour before she realizes I'm still in the office. Look at this. The screen filled with scanned documents, bank statements, property deeds, death certificates. My eyes caught on familiar names. Patricia, Uriel, Marcus Sr. Uriel was investigating financial irregularities before he died, Tori explained. Large transfers from the family accounts to offshore holdings, all authorized by Marcus Sr. But Cora blamed Patricia for the missing money, I said. Said that's why they divorced. Patricia was the scapegoat, but look at the dates. The transfers continued after her divorce, after Uriel's death, and they're still happening. My head spun. That's impossible. Marcus Sr. is dead. Is he? She pulled up a grainy photo, timestamp from 3 months ago. A man at a cafe in Buenos Aires, older but unmistakable from the family photos in Cora's house. The insurance payout, the remarriage, the whole grieving widow act, it was all a cover, Tori said. Uriel discovered the truth, so they eliminated him, made it look like an accident, and now history's repeating. The pieces clicked horribly into place. The ring, the accusations, isolating me from Marcus. She's setting me up like she did Patricia. Wendy, Tori gripped my arm. There's more. I found emails between Cora and Marcus from last week. About you. No. Please no. She turned the screen. There was my husband's familiar email signature, his words like knives. Mum's right. Wendy's becoming unstable, dangerous. The sooner we handle this, the better. The room tilted. All those late nights at the office, the sudden business trips, his desperate attempts to keep peace with his mother. He wasn't protecting me. He was helping plan my removal. We need to call the police, Tori said. With what proof? Cora's already discredited me to everyone who matters. She'll say I forged the documents, that I'm having a breakdown. My voice caught. Even Marcus would testify against me. Then run, I'll help you. A door slammed somewhere in the building. Footsteps approached. They're here, Tori whispered. Cora must have followed you. Delete everything, I hissed. They can't know you showed me. But do it. I won't let her destroy your family too. As Tori erased the files, I grabbed my ring from her desk. Not to wear, never again, but as proof. Of what? I wasn't sure yet. The footsteps grew closer, multiple sets. Backstairs, Tori mouthed, pointing to a fire exit. I'll stall them. I slipped through the door just as voices reached the office. Marcus's among them, concern masking steel. Tori, have you seen my wife? The stairwell was dark, emergency lights casting everything in sick green. I descended as quietly as possible, mind racing. I couldn't go home. Couldn't trust my friends. Cora would have poisoned them all against me by now. Couldn't even trust my own husband. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Patricia here. Heard you found the truth. Need somewhere safe? I've been preparing for this day for 20 years. I reached the ground floor, heart pounding. Through the exit door's window, I saw shadows moving in the lobby. They thought they had me trapped, cornered. Just another inconvenient woman to be erased from the family story. But they'd forgotten something crucial. I had nothing left to lose. I texted back one word. Where? The endgame was starting, and this time, I wouldn't be the one who disappeared. The annual charity gala sparkled with false perfection, just like its hostess. I adjusted my borrowed dress, Patricia's from happier days, and touched the USB drive hidden in my clutch. Amazing how something so small could hold enough truth to shatter an empire. Ready? Patricia squeezed my arm. After 3 days of hiding in her cabin, planning this moment, she'd become more than an ally. She was my mirror, showing what I'd become if I let Cora win. I nodded, watching guests stream into the hotel ballroom. Everyone who matters is here. The board members, the old family friends. The witnesses, Patricia finished. Her smile was sharp as broken glass. Time to give them something to really talk about. We separated at the entrance. The plan was simple. Patricia would handle the technical setup while I kept Cora distracted. One wrong move, and we'd both disappear, this time permanently. Cora spotted me immediately. Her perfect mask slipped for just a moment, showing genuine shock before recovering. "Wendy, darling," her voice carried across the room, drawing all eyes to us. "We've been so worried. Marcus has been absolutely frantic. Has he?" I moved closer, noting how she subtly backed away. Strange, since he helped drive me away. "You're not well, dear. We all see that now." Her concern was precision-engineered to draw sympathy from our growing audience. "Why don't we step somewhere private? Talk about getting you help." "No more private conversations, Cora. No more tests or disappearing rings or convenient accidents." I pulled out her precious sapphire ring. "Looking for this?" Her eyes narrowed. Behind her, I saw Marcus pushing through the crowd, face pale. "Wendy, stop." His voice shook. "Please, you're embarrassing yourself." Am I? Or am I finally seeing clearly? I turned to address the watching crowd. "Did you all know about Marcus Sr.? That he's alive and well in Buenos Aires?" A ripple of murmurs. Cora's smile turned glacial. "Security, please. My disturbed daughter-in-law needs..." The lights died. The massive screen behind the stage flickered to life, showing bank statements, emails, surveillance photos. Patricia's timing was perfect. "That's Marcus Sr. last month," I announced as the Buenos Aires cafe photo appeared. "Very alive for someone who supposedly died 20 years ago. Right, Cora?" "Lies," she hissed. "Obvious forgeries from a sick..." "The money transfers are still happening," I continued. "Same offshore accounts, same pattern Uriel discovered before his convenient accident. Would anyone like to see Cora's emails planning my own convenient accident?" "Enough." Marcus grabbed my arm. "Mom, call the police." I yanked away. "Did you even read the emails she sent you? Or did you just agree blindly, like always? Handle this like we handled Patricia." "That's what she wrote. Did you know what that meant?" His grip loosened. "What?" "Show him," Patricia's voice rang out. She emerged from the AV booth, remote in hand. "Show your son what his mother really is." The screen filled with security footage from 20 years ago. Cora and Marcus Sr. arguing with Uriel in his office. The timestamp matched the night of his accident. "Turn it off," Cora commanded, but her voice had lost its power. The crowd watched in horror as the scene played out. As Uriel threatened to expose the fraud. As Cora smiled and offered him one last drink. "That's not..." Marcus staggered back. "Mom?" "Everything I did was for you," Cora said. "To protect our family's legacy. Patricia would have destroyed us. Uriel would have ruined everything. And now your wife..." She turned to me, mask finally cracking. "You ungrateful little snake. I gave you everything. You gave me tests and lies. You tried to erase me just like you erased them." "And I'll do it again," she snarled, lunging for my throat. Several things happened at once. Marcus shouted. Patricia's heel caught Cora's ankle. And I, finally, fought back. We hit the ground hard, my sapphire ring flying from my clutch. It rolled across the floor, coming to rest at Chelsea's feet. The silence was deafening. Chelsea picked up the ring, looking between it and her mother with new eyes. Understanding bloomed across her face. Every test, every manipulation, every careful lie suddenly clear. "Security's not coming," she said quietly. "I called the police instead. The real police. They're already talking to Brad about Dad's accident." Cora's face crumpled, not from guilt or shame, but from the ultimate betrayal. Her perfect daughter, her trained ally, choosing truth over family loyalty. "Chelsea," she breathed. "No, Mom." Chelsea helped me up, pressing the ring into my palm. No more tests, no more lies. As police sirens wailed in the distance, I looked at my husband. Marcus stood frozen, years of carefully constructed reality shattering around him. "I'm sorry," I whispered, meaning it. He nodded slowly, looking at his mother with stranger's eyes. The sapphire caught the light, no longer a symbol of belonging, but of survival, of truth finally, brutally set free. The police station coffee tasted like burnt regrets. I sat in the harsh fluorescent light, watching through one-way glass as Cora's perfect mask finally cracked completely. Her carefully styled hair had come undone, her designer dress wrinkled from hours of questioning. She looked smaller somehow, more human. "She's confessing to everything," Detective Rivera said. "The fraud, Uriel's murder, even the attempted hit and run that made Patricia leave town. 20 years of secrets spilling out." I touched my throat where bruises were forming. "And Marcus Sr.? Interpol picked him up an hour ago. He's not as loyal to your mother-in-law as she thought." Of course not. Loyalty was something Cora demanded, never gave. The door opened. Marcus stood there, looking lost in clothes that had once fit perfectly. "Can we talk?" I followed him to a quiet corner, neither of us quite meeting the other's eyes. The sapphire ring felt heavy in my pocket, no longer a test of belonging, but a reminder of what we'd lost. "I keep thinking about all the signs," he said finally. "The missing jewelry, the convenient accidents, the way she'd twist everything until I couldn't trust my own memories. How did I not see it?" "Because she made sure you couldn't. She built your whole world, brick by brick, and you tore it down." His voice cracked. "Thank you, and I'm sorry." I pulled out the ring, studying how it caught the harsh light. "Did you know about what she was planning for me?" "No, yes, I don't know." He ran a hand through his hair, that familiar nervous gesture now painful to watch. "She said you were unstable, that you needed help. I thought I was protecting you. By helping her isolate me, gaslight me, I was wrong." His eyes filled with tears. "So wrong. But I can fix this. We can start over, rebuild." "No." The word came out gentle but firm. "We can't. Wendy, please, I love you. But you don't trust me. You never have, not really. Every time I came to you about your mother, every time I needed you to choose truth over comfort, you chose her version of reality. That's not fair. She's my mother, and I'm your wife. Was your wife." I pressed the ring into his palm, closing his fingers around it. "Give this to someone you'll believe in." Chelsea appeared in the doorway, eyes red but steady. "They need you both. More statements about the gala." I nodded, stepping away from Marcus, but Chelsea caught my arm. "Wait, there's something else you should know." She glanced at her brother. "Something Mum said during questioning. About Dad, our real dad." Marcus went still. "What about him? He's alive too, in witness protection. He didn't die in that crash. He faked it to escape Mom and Marcus Sr. He's been trying to contact us for years, but Mom intercepted everything." The revelation hit like a thunderbolt. All those carefully maintained stories, the manufactured grief, the lessons about family loyalty, built on nothing but lies. Marcus stumbled back like he'd been struck. "I can't. I need some air." We watched him leave, this man who'd lost every certainty in a single night. "Will you be okay?" I asked Chelsea. "Eventually. Patricia's helping me arrange a meeting with Dad. Real Dad." She squeezed my hand. "What about you?" Through the window, I could see Tori waiting by her car, ready to drive me to my new apartment. Patricia stood with her, these two women who'd helped me find truth and strength when I needed it most. "I will be," I said, surprising myself by meaning it. Chelsea hugged me fierce and quick. "Thank you, for being braver than we were." I walked outside into dawn's grey light. The air smelled like rain and possibility. Behind me, the police station held Cora and her crumbling empire of lies. Ahead, uncertainty waited, but it was honest uncertainty, built on truth instead of tests. My finger felt naked without the ring, but lighter somehow. Like I could finally reach for things without checking for approval first. "Ready?" Tori called. I looked back one last time. Through the window, I saw Marcus watching me, still holding that sapphire ring. Still caught between truth and comfort, reality and illusion. But his choices weren't mine anymore. "Ready," I said, stepping forward into my own unwritten story. Some things, after all, were always meant to be broken, including the chains we mistake for love.
The letter sat on my kitchen counter like a loaded gun. Dad's precise handwriting on cream stationery, the family crest embossed in gold. A reminder of everything I'd earned but would never receive. My hands shook as I reread the words that had shattered my Sunday morning. After careful consideration, I've decided to transfer the majority of the inheritance to Olivia in light of her upcoming wedding. Coffee grew cold beside me as I traced each perfectly formed letter. The same meticulous strokes Dad had used to teach me cursive when I was 7, spending hours practicing together while Olivia played outside. Now those familiar loops spelled out my betrayal. "Jasmine, you there?" Alyssa's voice crackled through my phone speaker. I'd forgotten I'd called her. "He's giving it all to her." My voice sounded hollow, disconnected. "The tech company shares, the summer house, everything Mom left for both of us. He's just giving it away." "That can't be legal. Your mom's will was changed 6 months ago." The paper crumpled in my fist. Dad convinced her while she was sick, said it was best for the family. I could still see Mom's face in those final weeks, pale and drawn, but smiling as she signed the papers Dad brought. "Trust your father," she'd whispered. "He knows what's best." My phone buzzed with an incoming text. "Olivia, did you get Dad's letter? Can we talk?" I switched off the screen without responding. The same sister who'd sworn we'd always share everything equally was now silent partner to this theft. The same sister whose wedding I'd helped plan for months, spending countless nights reviewing venues and tasting cakes, never suspecting what was coming. "I can't believe she knew," I told Alyssa. "All those wedding meetings, all those sister brunches. She sat there planning my financial execution over mimosas." Maybe she didn't. Oh, she knew. The memory surfaced of last week's cake tasting, Olivia's slight smirk when Dad mentioned the family business. I'd attributed it to wedding excitement. Now that smirk burned in my mind like a brand. "I'm coming over," Alyssa declared. "No, I need to think." I hung up before she could argue. My laptop hummed to life as I pulled up the company financials. 10 years I'd spent building the cybersecurity division from scratch, transforming it from Dad's struggling tech consulting firm into an industry leader. Olivia had barely set foot in the office, too busy finding herself through 3 different graduate programs. Another text from Olivia. "Please don't be mad. Dad says this is best for everyone. Best for everyone." The same words he'd used when giving Olivia my childhood bedroom because she needs more space for her art, when paying for her semester abroad while I worked through college, when promoting her boyfriend Oliver to senior management despite his complete lack of qualifications, the familiar ache of being the responsible daughter, the reliable one, the one who never quite measured up despite doing everything right, twisted into something darker, something that tasted like bile and burned like revenge. My phone rang, Dad's number. I let it go to voicemail, already knowing his script. He'd explain his reasoning with that patronizing patience, remind me that family comes first, tell me to be happy for my sister's special time. But as I stared at the blinking cursor on my screen, at the network architecture I'd built with my own hands, a different future began taking shape. Dad had taught me everything about the company's systems, every password, every backdoor, every vulnerability. He'd trusted his reliable daughter with all the keys to the kingdom. "Trust your father," Mom had said. But she never saw this coming. My fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up account access logs and security protocols. Years of being the perfect daughter, the responsible one, the one who never questioned Dad's decisions. It ended today. They wanted to take what was mine? Fine. But they'd forgotten who actually controlled the digital heart of this company. The cursor blinked, waiting for my command. One keystroke could start an avalanche they'd never see coming. My phone buzzed again. Probably Olivia with more placating texts, or Dad with his reasonable explanations. I ignored it, focused on the screen. "You taught me too well, Dad," I whispered, beginning to type. The familiar thrill of coding tingled through my fingers. But this time, it wasn't about building. This time, I was going to show them exactly what the reliable daughter could do when pushed too far. I hit enter, and the first domino fell. The code ran silently in the background, while I stared at my reflection in the office bathroom mirror. Same crisp blazer, same carefully styled hair, same mask of professional competence. No one passing me in the halls would guess I'd just planted the seeds of digital chaos in our network. My phone vibrated. Olivia again. 14 missed calls since yesterday. I switched it to silent and practiced my smile, the one that said everything was fine. Just another Monday at the office. "There you are!" Lucas appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. "The quarterly security audit is due, and marketing needs access to—" He stopped, studying my face. "You okay?" I forced my smile wider. "Never better. What does marketing need?" But Lucas, my right hand in cybersecurity for 5 years, wasn't buying it. He closed the bathroom door. "You look like you're plotting a murder. Just an execution of sorts." I pulled up the company's financial dashboard on my phone, watching the first ripples of my code begin to spread. Small discrepancies, tiny delays in processing. Nothing obvious yet. "Did you know about the ownership transfer?" His silence was answer enough. "How long?" My voice stayed steady, professional. The voice Dad had praised during board meetings. "Jasmine." Lucas shifted uncomfortably. "There were meetings, private ones. Oliver was there." "Of course." Oliver, Olivia's fiancé, the man Dad had fast-tracked to senior management. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Those late nights he'd spent learning the business weren't about work at all. "They're announcing it at the wedding," Lucas continued. "Full transfer of controlling shares. Oliver's taking over cybersecurity." The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I absorbed this new betrayal. Not just the inheritance then. They were taking my division too. My life's work handed to Oliver, who couldn't code his way out of a paper bag. "I need coffee," I announced, walking out before Lucas could see the rage burning behind my eyes. The elevator ride to the lobby gave me time to think. Oliver in charge of cybersecurity meant access to everything, including the subtle traps I'd woven into the system overnight. I needed to accelerate my timeline. "Jasmine!" I froze halfway across the lobby. Olivia stood by the security desk, wearing the designer dress I'd helped her pick for wedding fittings. She rushed over, arms outstretched for a hug I didn't return. "Why aren't you answering my calls? We need to talk about this." "About what?" I kept my voice light, aware of watching eyes. "The secret meetings, the ownership transfer, or how you and Oliver played me for months." Her perfect features crumpled. "It's not like that. Dad says the company needs fresh blood, new perspectives. Oliver has amazing ideas. Oliver doesn't know a firewall from a brick wall." The words came out sharp enough to make nearby heads turn. I lowered my voice. "But you knew that when you brought him to Dad, didn't you?" "You're being dramatic." She touched my arm. "Nothing has to change. You'll still have your job, your team." "Under Oliver?" I stepped back. "The man who asked me last week if Python was a type of snake? He's learning, and Dad says—" "Dad says, Dad says." The words tasted bitter. "Tell me something, Liv. When exactly did you plan to mention this? During your wedding toast? Or maybe after the honeymoon, once all the papers were signed?" Tears welled in her eyes. The same tears that had always worked on Dad. "Please don't be like this. It's my wedding week. I need my sister." For a moment, I saw us as we used to be, sharing secrets, planning futures, swearing nothing would ever come between us. Then I remembered her smirk at the cake tasting. "You have what you need," I said quietly. "The company, the shares, Oliver. Congratulations on the hat trick, sis." I walked out into the sunshine, leaving her calling my name. My phone buzzed with a text from Lucas. "Oliver requesting admin access to security protocols. What should I do?" I smiled, thinking of the poison pills buried in those protocols, the digital time bombs waiting to be triggered by exactly that kind of access request. Oliver wanted my system? Fine, let him have it. "Standard procedure," I texted back. "Give him everything he asks for." The coffee shop across the street was quiet this time of morning. I ordered my usual and opened my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. One command would accelerate the cascade I'd started, targeting the offshore accounts Dad had set up for Olivia's wedding gift. A new text lit up my phone. From Dad this time. "Family dinner tonight. Non-negotiable. We need to discuss your future with the company." My future. Like I was a problem to be managed, a loose end to be tied up neatly before the wedding. I took a sip of coffee and began to type. They wanted to discuss my future? Perfect. Because I had plans of my own, and they were about to discover exactly what kind of future I could create. The family dining room felt smaller than I remembered, walls closing in as Dad carved the roast with surgical precision. Same Sunday dinner ritual, same heavy silverware that had been Mom's pride. Only now everything felt like a stage set, carefully arranged to manipulate me. "The transition will be smooth," Dad said, passing plates. "Oliver's quite eager to learn from you." I pushed food around my plate, thinking of the code I'd embedded that morning. The first financial discrepancies should be appearing in the offshore accounts right about now. "I'm sure he is." I took a small bite, savoring the moment. "How's the wedding planning going, Liv?" Olivia brightened. "Launch her into details about flowers and table settings." I nodded along, watching Dad's phone from the corner of my eye. Any minute now. His ringtone shattered the carefully orchestrated piece. "Excuse me," he said, frowning at the screen. "I need to take this." The moment he left, Olivia leaned forward. "Please just listen. Oliver really admires your work. He says, 'Don't.'" I set down my fork. "Just don't." "Girls?" Dad's voice carried from his study, tight with tension. "There seems to be an issue with the transfer accounts." I took a slow sip of wine. "Oh?" He returned, face flushed. "The wedding venue payment didn't go through, and there are irregularities in the company accounts." "Mercury must be in retrograde," I offered. His eyes narrowed. "Jasmine." "Yes, Dad?" "Fix it." The command was so familiar, Dad's go-to solution whenever technology misbehaved. But this time, fixing it wasn't as simple as he thought. "I can't," I said, enjoying his confusion. "Oliver's in charge of security now, remember? Better ask him." The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Olivia looked between us, realization dawning. "What did you do?" she whispered. My phone buzzed. "Lucas. Emergency at the office. Systems going haywire. Oliver can't access anything." "Nothing that can't be undone," I said, standing. "Yet." Dad's face darkened. "You're making a mistake." "No, that was yours." I grabbed my purse. "When you decided I was expendable." "Jasmine, wait." Olivia caught my arm. "We can fix this, as a family." I looked at her perfectly manicured hand on my sleeve, remembering all the times she'd used that touch to get her way. "Family? You lost the right to that word when you and Oliver started plotting behind my back." "It wasn't like that." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Oliver found out by accident. He overheard Dad talking to the lawyers and he..." "He what?" The pieces clicked together. "He saw an opportunity?" Her silence was damning. "When?" My voice cracked. "When did he tell you?" 3 months ago." She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Right after he proposed." The timeline hit me like a physical blow. 3 months of wedding planning together. 3 months of sister brunches and late-night calls. 3 months of lies. "You know what's funny?" I pulled free from her grip. "I actually helped him pick your engagement ring." Dad stepped forward. Enough. You're upset, I understand. But this childish attempt at revenge— Childish? I laughed, the sound harsh in the formal dining room. You haven't seen anything yet. My phone buzzed again. Lucas. Oliver trying to override security protocols. Systems fighting back. Of course it was. I designed it that way. Every attempt to force access would trigger another layer of encryption, another digital maze. By morning, the company's entire network would be locked down tighter than a bank vault. 1 week, I said, turning to Dad. That's how long you have to make this right. Are you threatening me? I'm giving you a choice. I met his gaze steadily. The same courtesy you never gave me. Olivia started to speak, but Dad held up his hand. And if I refuse? Then I hope Oliver enjoys his honeymoon, trying to rebuild the company's entire digital infrastructure from scratch. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Dad's face reddened, but before he could respond, my phone lit up with an incoming call. From Oliver. I showed them the screen, smiling. Looks like the groom-to-be needs some technical support, but don't worry, I'm sure he'll figure it out. After all, that's why you chose him, right? I walked out, their protests fading behind me. In the driveway, my hands shook as I pulled up the system dashboard. Red warnings flashed across the screen. Oliver's clumsy attempts to regain control doing exactly what I'd planned. Another call came through. Lucas again. I answered, expecting panic about the system chaos. Instead, his voice was oddly calm. There's something you need to see, about why your dad really changed the will. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? Not over the phone. He paused. How fast can you get to the office? The office was dark, except for the blue glow of Lucas's monitors, casting shadows across the files spread across his desk. Through the glass walls, I could see Oliver's team working frantically in the conference room, trying to undo my digital trap. Look at this. Lucas handed me a folder. Found it while digging through the encrypted archives. Inside were financial records dating back 3 years. Transfers, investments, shell companies. My hands went cold as I traced the money trail. Mom's medical bills, I whispered. Dad said the insurance covered everything. It didn't. Lucas pulled up more documents on his screen. The experimental treatments, the specialists. Insurance denied most of it. Your dad had to leverage company assets to pay. The numbers blurred before my eyes. Millions spent trying to save her, draining accounts I never knew existed. The company's been running on fumes, Lucas continued. Your cybersecurity division is the only thing keeping it afloat. That's why he needs Oliver. The realization hit like ice water. A merger with Oliver's family's tech firm. Lucas nodded. The wedding's just cover for the business deal. Once Oliver takes control, the merger goes through, saving both companies. I sank into a chair, my carefully constructed revenge plot suddenly feeling hollow. Dad's not betraying me. He's desperate. Jasmine? Alyssa's voice made me jump. She stood in the doorway, concern etched on her face. Your sister's been trying to reach you. I can't deal with her right now. I gestured at the documents. Did you know about any of this? She moved closer, glancing at the papers. I knew things were bad after your mom, but not the details. She touched my shoulder. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, shouting erupted from the conference room. Through the glass, I watched Oliver slam his laptop shut, face red with frustration. Your code's working, Lucas said quietly. Another hour, and the whole system goes into lockdown, including these financial records. The weight of the choice pressed down on me. I could stop it now, before the damage became permanent. Before Dad lost everything he'd sacrificed so much to save. My phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. Please, whatever you're doing, stop. There's more you don't know. More secrets? I muttered. What a surprise. Maybe you should hear her out, Alyssa suggested. Before this goes too far. I stood, moving to the window. Below, city lights sparkled like the future I'd always imagined. Running the company, making Mom proud, keeping the family legacy alive. Now that future was unraveling, replaced by merger documents and hidden debts. If I stop the code, I said slowly, Oliver takes over. The merger goes through. Everything Mom built gets absorbed into his family's corporation. And if you don't? Lucas asked. I watched Oliver storm out of the conference room, phone pressed to his ear. Probably calling Dad, demanding answers about the security system he was supposed to control. Then I burn it all down. My voice sounded distant, even to myself. The merger fails. The company stays independent. But Dad loses everything. There has to be another way, Alyssa pleaded. Talk to them. Make them understand. Like they made me understand? I turned back to Lucas's monitors, fingers flying over the keyboard. They had months to tell me the truth. Instead, they lied, plotted, treated me like a problem to be managed. The code responded to my commands, strengthening its hold on the system. In the conference room, screens began to flicker. Jasmine, wait. Lucas reached for the keyboard. I blocked his access with 2 keystrokes. I'm not waiting anymore. I'm not being the good daughter who steps aside. Not this time. My phone lit up with Dad's number. I declined the call, watching the first wave of irreversible changes sweep through the network. They wanted me to trust them, I said, more to myself than my friends. Fine. I trust that they'll do exactly what they've always done, whatever it takes to keep their secrets. Alyssa grabbed my arm. This isn't you. You're angry, I get it, but… No, this is exactly me. I shrugged her off. The me they created when they decided I didn't deserve the truth. Through the glass, Oliver's team was packing up, defeated. My phone buzzed again. Olivia. Mom made me promise not to tell you. Before she died, please call me. I stared at the message, a new kind of cold spreading through my chest. What final secret had Mom taken to her grave? What promise had she extracted from Olivia? The cursor blinked on Lucas's screen, waiting. One command would trigger the final phase, sealing everyone's fate. My fingers hovered over the keys as Mom's voice echoed in my memory. Trust your father. He knows what's best. I started typing. The coffee shop was empty at midnight, just me and the barista, who'd long stopped asking if I wanted refills. My laptop screen glowed with cascading lines of code, the digital equivalent of watching a building burn. You look terrible, I jumped. Oliver stood by my table, his usual polished appearance rumpled after hours of fighting my security protocols. Shouldn't you be at your bachelor party? I closed the laptop, but not before he glimpsed the system dashboard. Funny thing about bachelor parties. He sat uninvited. They're less fun when your company's imploding. Your company? The words tasted bitter. You mean the one you're acquiring through marriage? His face hardened. Is that what you think? That I'm some corporate raider who seduced your sister for a business deal? Aren't you? I love her. The simple declaration caught me off guard. The merger wasn't my idea. It was your mother's. The world tilted sideways. What? She knew the company was failing. Knew your dad would never admit it. Oliver pulled out his phone, showing me an email. She reached out to my family months before she died. The timestamp hit me first, 2 weeks before Mom's final decline. Then the words, my daughters deserve better than watching their father's pride destroy their inheritance. The merger is the only way. She never said, my voice cracked. She made Olivia promise to keep quiet. Wanted you focused on the company, not worried about her plans. He paused. Or her diagnosis. I knew about the diagnosis. But even as I said it, something nagged at my memory. Mom's insistence that I take that business trip during her last week. Dad's strange relief when I said I'd go. Did you know it wasn't the cancer that killed her? Oliver's voice was gentle. She stopped treatment early, used the money to save the company instead. The coffee cup slipped from my numb fingers, spilling across the table. Oliver grabbed napkins, but I barely noticed. She chose to die? The words came out strangled. She chose to protect her family's future. He mopped up coffee. The merger wasn't about taking your company. It was about saving it, and you, from your father's pride. My phone buzzed. Lucas. System lockdown complete. Point of no return in 15 minutes. Huh, why are you telling me this now? I searched Oliver's face for deception. Because in 15 minutes, you'll destroy everything your mother died to protect. He stood. And Olivia will never forgive either of us. The mention of my sister sent fresh pain through my chest. She lied to me. You all did. Ooh, yes. He didn't flinch. To honor your mother's last wish. To give you time to grieve without carrying this burden too. He headed for the door, then turned back. You know what's ironic? Your mother said you'd be the one to save the company. That your brilliance would secure its future. Instead, I'm destroying it. Are you? He raised an eyebrow. Or are you proving her right? My phone buzzed again. Dad this time. Please come home. There's something you need to see. The merger papers, I said. They're ready, aren't they? Oliver nodded. Waiting on your father's desk, along with a letter your mother left for you. My fingers trembled as I pulled up the system dashboard. 13 minutes until total lockdown. 13 minutes to decide if revenge was worth betraying Mom's final sacrifice. You know what really keeps me up at night? Oliver lingered in the doorway. Wondering if I deserve any of this. The company, Olivia, your mother's trust. He met my eyes. Do you ever wonder the same thing? He left before I could answer, the bell above the door chiming softly. Through the window, I watched him walk away, no longer seeing the corporate usurper I'd imagined, but someone else caught in Mom's final gambit. My screen flashed. System lockdown initiating. Proceed YN. Mom's words echoed in my head. My daughters deserve better. Another text from Dad. Your mother wanted you to lead this company, not destroy it. Come home, please. 11 minutes. The cursor blinked, waiting for my command. In the darkened window, my reflection stared back, Mom's eyes in my face, asking silently if revenge was worth destroying her last gift to us all. I opened a new command window and began to type. Not to destroy this time, but to build something new from the ashes of all our secrets. The real question wasn't whether I deserved any of this. It was whether I could become the daughter Mom believed I could be, the one strong enough to save our family from itself. 10 minutes left to find out. Dad's study looked exactly as it had when I was a child. Leather-bound books, Mom's photographs, the faint scent of pipe tobacco he'd quit smoking years ago. Only now, spread across his desk, lay the evidence of our family's unraveling. You came! He stood as I entered, looking older than I'd ever seen him. The merger documents sat untouched beside a cream-colored envelope with my name in Mom's handwriting. 8 minutes until system lockdown. I checked my phone. Start talking. Instead of speaking, he handed me Mom's letter. The paper felt fragile, like it might crumble along with the last of my certainties. My dearest Jasmine, if you're reading this, I've failed to tell you the truth in person. Your father will blame himself for that. Let him. Guilt has always been his preferred currency. The company is failing, not because of your father's choices, but because of mine. Those experimental treatments weren't just expensive, they were investments in a competing technology. I gambled our future on a cure that didn't exist. Your father wanted to sell everything, start fresh, but I knew that would destroy you both. The proud man who built this company from nothing, and the brilliant daughter who made it soar. The merger was my solution. Oliver's family brings the capital we need, while you bring the innovation that will save us all. Forgive your sister for her silence. Forgive your father for his pride. But most of all, forgive me for making you bear this burden alone. Lead them well. All my love, Mom. My vision blurred. She knew about everything. She knew you'd fight the merger. Dad's voice was rough. Knew you'd see it as a betrayal rather than salvation. So she orchestrated all of it? My laugh sounded hollow. Oliver and Olivia's relationship? The inheritance change? Oliver and Olivia were unexpected, but convenient. He picked up the merger documents. Your mother saw an opportunity to unite the families personally as well as professionally. My phone buzzed. Lucas. 5 minutes. Security protocols awaiting final command. She was wrong about one thing. I said, watching Dad's face. The company's not failing because of her choices or yours. I turned my laptop around, showing him the real financial records I'd uncovered. Someone's been embezzling funds for months. Someone with high-level access. The color drained from his face. That's impossible. Only family has that level of clearance. Exactly. I pulled up the transaction logs. Care to guess whose authorization codes were used? Understanding dawned in his eyes. Oliver. No. I hit one final key, revealing the truth. Olivia. The study door opened. Olivia stood there, still in her wedding planning outfit, tears streaming down her face. I can explain. The gambling debts? I asked quietly. Or how you've been stealing from Mom's medical fund since before she died? Dad staggered, gripping his desk. Tell me this isn't true. I was going to pay it back. Olivia's voice cracked. Oliver's family's money would cover everything. The merger would hide the missing funds. My phone, 3 minutes to lockdown. That's why you pushed for the quick engagement, I realized. Why you needed the merger to happen before anyone looked too closely at the books. I didn't mean for Mom to... She choked on the words. To die believing her daughter betrayed everything she built? The rage I'd been directing at Dad shifted targets. To sacrifice herself for a company you were secretly destroying? Jasmine. Dad's voice shook. Stop the lockdown. Why should I? The hurt spilled out. So Olivia's theft can be quietly buried? So Oliver's family can sweep in and save us? Because your mother was right about one thing. He handed me the merger documents. You're the only one who can save this company, not by destroying it, but by leading it. 1 minute remaining. Olivia stepped forward. I'll confess. Pay everything back. Just please, don't let Mom's sacrifice be for nothing. My finger hovered over the keyboard. One command would seal everyone's fate. Olivia's crimes exposed. The merger destroyed. Our family's legacy ended by our own hands. The cursor blinked, counting down the seconds. In Mom's photograph on the wall, she smiled at us all, believing until the end that her daughters would choose love over pride, family over revenge. 30 seconds, I said, looking at my sister. That's how long you have to tell me the whole truth. Everything you've hidden, everything you've stolen. And then? I thought of Mom's words. Lead them well. Then we'll see what kind of leader I really am. The clock ticked down as Olivia began to speak, each word another piece of our shattered family falling into place. Behind her, Dad gripped the desk like a man watching his world collapse. And maybe it was. But from these ruins, something new would rise. Something built on truth instead of secrets, strength instead of pride. The final countdown began. 300,000 from the Cancer Research Fund. Olivia's voice cracked. 200,000 from the pension accounts. The rest. She swallowed hard. The rest from Mom's treatment fund. Each confession landed like a physical blow. The numbers on my screen confirmed everything. Nearly $1 million bled away through careful manipulations, hidden transfers, deleted records. 10 seconds remained on the lockdown countdown. Why? Dad's question came out barely above a whisper. Because I couldn't stop. Olivia's designer dress suddenly looked cheap, her perfect makeup streaked with tears. The casino loans, the online betting, I thought I could win it back. 5 seconds. And Oliver? I forced myself to ask. Does he know? No. She wrapped her arms around herself. He thinks the merger is just business. That's why I needed it to happen fast, before he could look too closely at the accounts. 2 seconds. Jasmine! Dad's voice steadied. Whatever you decide, know that your mother would be proud. 1 second. I closed my eyes, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Mom's voice echoed in my memory. Lead them well. The clock hit 0. My fingers moved, executing a different command than anyone expected. On my screen, the system lockdown protocol shifted, transforming into something new. What are you doing? Olivia stepped closer, peering at the scrolling code. Giving us a choice. I turned the laptop so they could see. The system's locked, but not destroyed. I'm creating 3 separate access keys. Understanding dawned in Dad's eyes. One for each of us. Any 2 keys together can unlock the system. My fingers flew across the keyboard. But it requires agreement, cooperation, no more unilateral decisions. And if we can't agree? Olivia's voice shook. Then the system stays locked. The merger fails, and everything Mom tried to protect dies with her secrets. The program finished compiling. 3 digital keys appeared on screen, waiting to be claimed. There's more. I met Olivia's eyes. The keys come with conditions. First, you repay everything you stole, starting with Mom's medical fund. She nodded, fresh tears falling. Second, you get help. Real help, not just promises. And third? Dad asked. The merger proceeds, but with modifications. I pulled up the new terms I'd drafted while racing to the house. Oliver's family gets their partnership, but the cybersecurity division remains independent, under my control. You'd trust me with a key? Olivia whispered. After everything? No. The word came out sharp. I'm trusting Mom's belief that somewhere under all those lies is the sister I used to know, the one who'd rather face consequences than destroy our family. Dad picked up the merger documents. Oliver's family won't like these changes. Then they can walk away. I stood straighter. But they should know that without my division, they're buying a shell. The real value was never in the assets Olivia stole or the accounts you leveraged. It was in what Mom knew all along. The innovation, the potential, the future we could build together. The study fell silent, except for the soft hum of my laptop. Outside, dawn was breaking, painting the sky in shades of possibility. I'll take the deal. Olivia's voice was quiet but firm. Whatever it costs, whatever I have to do. I choose family. Dad looked between us. His daughters, so different, yet both shaped by his choices, his pride, his love. Your mother once told me our greatest legacy wouldn't be the company. He picked up her photograph. It would be teaching our daughters to rise above our mistakes. Is that a yes? I held my breath. He set down the photograph and reached for the laptop. Generate the keys. My program hummed to life, creating 3 unique digital signatures. With trembling fingers, Olivia claimed hers first. Dad followed, his businesslike facade cracking as the weight of the moment hit him. I stared at the final key. My key. The power to lock or unlock our future glowing on the screen. One last chance to choose revenge over redemption. Mom smiled from her photograph as I reached for the keyboard. In the end, she'd known this moment would come. Known I would have to choose between being right and being family. Together? I asked, looking at my sister and father. They moved to either side of me, our hands joining over the keyboard. In that moment, I saw us clearly, not as the perfect family we'd pretended to be, but as the flawed, struggling, loving people we actually were. Together, they echoed. I pressed enter, and our new future began. The wedding venue looked different in daylight, stripped of twinkle lights and romantic illusions. Olivia sat beside me on the stone steps, both of us staring at the empty parking lot where guests should have been arriving. Oliver's family is furious, she said, smoothing her casual sundress, so different from the wedding gown hanging unworn in her closet. Dad says they're threatening lawsuits. Let them. I handed her a coffee. They won't find anything. The system's clean now, all traces of the embezzlement erased. Your repayment will look like normal transfers. Why did you do that? Cover my tracks? Because Mom protected us, even when it hurt. I sipped my own coffee. Seems like a family tradition. My phone buzzed. Lucas confirming the new security protocols were in place. The company network hummed along under shared control, 3 keys working in harmony. I found something else in the old records, I said quietly. About Mom's treatments. Olivia tensed beside me. What? She didn't stop them just to save money. I pulled out a medical report. They were working. The experimental drug was actually fighting the cancer. But then why? Because the treatment would have taken years. Years of draining company resources. Years of watching Dad struggle to keep everything afloat. I handed her the report. She chose a faster ending on her terms. Olivia's hands shook as she read. She knew about my gambling back then, didn't she? That's why she made me promise to keep quiet. She knew about all of us. My anger, your addiction, Dad's pride. I watched a delivery van pull up, workers beginning to dismantle the wedding decorations. She wasn't trying to save the company. She was trying to save her family. By dying? By forcing us to face each other, to choose what kind of people we wanted to be. Olivia leaned against my shoulder, like she used to when we were kids. I start therapy tomorrow. Real therapy, not just the corporate counseling Dad suggested. I know. I got the confirmation email. She sat up. You're monitoring my email? I'm monitoring everything. I met her gaze steadily. That's the deal. Total transparency, or the key gets revoked. Your choice, every day. And you? What's keeping you honest? I pulled out Mom's letter, creased from constant reading. This line here, lead them well. She didn't say lead the company well, or lead the merger well. She said them. Us. The hardest leadership challenge of all. A familiar car pulled into the lot, Oliver's sleek BMW. He stepped out, looking uncertain in casual clothes instead of his usual suit. He still loves me, Olivia whispered, even after learning everything. Then he's smarter than I gave him credit for. I stood, brushing off my jeans. The merger papers are ready, different terms, but the core partnership intact. If he's still interested. Are you sure, after what I did? I'm sure about one thing. I helped her up. Mom believed in second chances, even when we didn't deserve them. Oliver approached slowly, hands in his pockets. Behind him, workers continued dismantling the wedding that wouldn't happen. At least not today, not like this. The network's secure, he said, looking at me. Your team's implementation is impressive. Better than Python? I couldn't resist. He actually smiled. I deserved that. Yes, you did. I turned to Olivia. I'll be in the office. Take your time. She grabbed my hand. Jasmine, wait, thank you. For not burning it all down when you could have. Oh, I did burn it down. I squeezed her hand. I just made sure something better could rise from the ashes. Walking to my car, I heard them begin to talk. Soft words about trust and truth and starting over. My phone buzzed with Dad's message. Board meeting tomorrow. Ready to lead? I looked back at the venue, at the dismantled decorations and changed plans, at my sister and her fiancé, choosing to rebuild rather than run. At the future, Mom had sacrificed everything to give us. Not a perfect legacy, but a chance to write our own story. Ready, I texted back. The sun broke through the clouds as I drove away, casting long shadows behind me. Ahead, the road stretched toward the office, toward responsibility and redemption, and all the complicated choices family brings. Mom was right. Leading well isn't about power or control, or even justice. It's about knowing when to hold on and when to let go, when to fight and when to forgive, when to trust that even broken things can be beautiful, if you're brave enough to rebuild them together.